Yeah, all right, we're live. Oh, I'm live. All right, let me check my pulse. Yep. Just going to give it a couple minutes here and let people start streaming. All right, we're live. Oh, I'm live. All right. All right, share this to the pages. Hey, Jay Zimma, what's going on? Just going to wait here a few minutes, see if get a few more people in the chat before I start going on today about some of the issues facing us. Today, it's going to be more about actually focusing on engaging with those of you in the chat. That's usually what I prefer to do on these Sunday streams. And I want to, those of you who are in the chat, like I say, pose some good, tough questions if you got any. I like to be challenged. Wonder, can I share a picture? No. Just check real quick here. I'm going to share an article actually here in the chat for anyone to click on it and just see what's going on. Todd Thurier and Steve Wenzel. Right on. Cool. I'm just going to share an article here in the chat. If you want to just click on it. I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but wow, what a hit piece. And if you look at the picture that they used for that New York Times article, let me just get to it here now. I mean, it's a who's who of everyone that's challenging the status quo, basically. Like, just give me, like I say, I'll just give it a minute here before I really delve into it, get a few more people join in. Do you think First Nations children deserve high school in their own communities, or should they be stolen at 14-year-olds and brought to the city? I don't think anyone should ever be forced to do anything against their will when you're talking about things such as residential school stuff. But I don't think it's quite an easy answer just to say that it's a one size fits all approach to suggest that it's a terrible thing for anyone to be educated. As far as I'm concerned, education is something in the 21st century, the world that we live in today. Education is so easy and readily available. Why would you even need to go into a whether it's a residential school or even actually even a public school? I mean, I know that's kind of people say, well, you need it for socialization. Really? How much socializing do you do in school? You don't. You're not allowed, right? Teacher tells you sit down, shut up. The only socializing you do in school is what, on recess or lunch, and yeah, that just means you're going outside of that the confines of that building. Which, hey, guess what? You can step outside the confines of a building and socialize without having to go to school. So socialization is not that difficult. And in the modern information age, in the digital age that we live in today, what we're doing here, right? Why do you need to go to a public school to be educated by some teacher that might be, I mean, some of them, every once in a while, you will get lucky and get a teacher that actually is competent, but you have a lot of them in there, they just want to get their paycheck and they just go through the curriculum and they don't really give a crap about properly educating and inform their students or giving them good critical thinking skills. Whereas in the age of information, you can go to take an online course and study historical literature or mathematics, basically anything you want to learn. Like, we live in the age of information. It's all right there at your fingertips. So to go to a public school to get education, to me, it's like, really? Why would you think that's your only source or your only capacity to be educated and informed? No, you live in the age of information. To think that you need to go to what, like I say, whether it's any of these government funded schools, because really a government, funded school, it's basically a form of indoctrination. You're not truly getting educated. Well, they'll give you enough education, just like if you're a animal on a farm, right? They'll teach you where the stalls are. They'll teach you how to stand still while they milk you or be productive. But are you properly getting educated today? I don't really necessarily think so. Not in a manner that I think actually would be constructive to the point where you actually properly have a critical thinking mind. A lot of the stuff you're getting today as far as education is, like I say, a form of indoctrination. Seriously, dude, what did I say that requires a response of seriously, dude? I don't know what to say there, man. We brag about Canadians being able to do communications. Each child, First Nation child, is worth $35,000. Public schools have government agendas, of course, yeah. As George Carlin says, just smart enough to read the instructions. That's pretty much it, yeah. Yeah, no, I don't put a whole lot of emphasis or faith in the public education system in this country. That I do not. Matter of fact, I'm one of those people that school bored me so much. I was actually top of the class in my very early years. Every year after year, I was considered top of the class. But all it took was for me to be stuck in that environment where it just kept going down to the point where in grade 9, and it wasn't that I lost my ability. It was an environment that I didn't really care for, and it wasn't conducive for the way I like to think or learn. So what happened is I basically, by the time I get to grade 9, I just quit and I went to work. I was like, what the? I think I made it, 2 months into grade 9. I was like, nah, don't want nothing to do with this crap. I don't think I'm learning anything other than be a good little slave or serf to the ruling classes. But the only thing I think I was learning through the education system in this country. So actually, no, I quit, and I don't regret it for 1 minute, because a lot of people that stayed and were formally educated they were actually formally indoctrinated. So I think I was at least wise enough to get out of that system early enough that I wasn't fully indoctrinated in the faith of statism. Thank goodness for that. Do you eat ass? Asshole eater. No, sorry. I'm not a big fan on tossing anyone's salad, to be honest with you there, asshole eater. Fuck. Hey, but if you're all into that tossing the salad, you do your thing. I'm a libertarian. As long as you're not trying to eat my ass, hey, as long as it's voluntary, whoever's ass you're trying to eat, you go right ahead and do that eating. Good for you. What should be the single focusing factor in the election this year? What? Freedom? Liberty. Yeah. The biggest thing, as far as I'm concerned, to be honest with you, I know that's a pretty simplistic answer, but is giving people their ability to, like, as far as social and economic freedoms, just treating adults or treating Canadian adults like Canadian adults, rather than treating Canadians as if they're petulant children that need to be led down every little avenue, whether it's economic or social policy. Like I say, treat adults like adults. That would be something. If I seen that happen in the election process, where there was someone that was part of the representative of the establishment or the ruling class of any of the established parties, if they said, rather than talk down on you and tell you how we have to figure out what's best for you, I'd like to see someone in the media establishment or the political establishment say, you know what, we're just going to respect the fact that you're a sovereign human being, you're an adult, and we're going to treat you as such. I'm not going to hold my breath, well, other than Maxime Bernier and the PBC. Well, that's the whole point of the fairness and the respect and personal responsibilities. We're going to try to treat you like adults. So Maxime will offer that. How many Canadians are going to get that kind of messaging? Not quite sure at this point in time, because the media is trying to distort that kind of messaging and suggest that, I guess, the PBC and Maxime are all just, I don't know, like a bunch of like white nationalists or racists, or, you know, the way the media is going on. But at the end of the day, I just want someone in some political party or somewhere along the political process to just say, hey, I want to treat Canadians as adults. What a novel concept, no? Hey, AJ, what's going on, buddy? Hey, Rance, what's going on? Derek, how you guys doing? Any of you guys want to join in, just let me know here. Like I say, today's just a total chill, relax. There's not going to be, although if someone wants to get, that's another thing. Yeah, it was a good little round we had there with yesterday with Blue Apple. That was good stuff. Actually, she asked me, I will mention this right now. She asked me in a Twitter message. So if anyone sees that I go in after this and edit out, I don't like to do that though, because especially if it's a live stream, I love leaving everything out in the open. But she asked that I would edit out her portion of it, because she said she didn't like the fact that she was swearing online and stuff like that. So I might end up, because she has requested, and I'll share a copy of that message just so you know. I'm not looking to take it down myself. I found it was fine, engaging, and all that stuff. And at the end of the, you know, even though we get a little heated there for a second, we got back on track and it worked out okay. But I might end up having to bring it down, edit out her part, and then re-upload it without her involved, because if she's asking that, if she's requesting that, I think it's only respectful of me to do so. So I probably will end up trying to do that, although it just makes more work for me. But you know, if she wants me to take her out of that, I mean, you know, just give her, abide by her request and do so. How's the mood? Mood's great. Mood's awesome. Actually, my mood changes depending on who the people are that I'm speaking to, right? Yeah, if you treat me with I'm like I say, I'm the kind of guy, if you treat me with respect and dignity, you get that back 100%. But you start attacking me, wait for it to come back at you. And chances are, because I'm so competitive, I'll probably bring it back double. So it's not a matter of mood. Like I say, I treat people based on the way they treat me. The biggest thing is the debt and paying interest on that debt. Yeah, that's huge. And when will Canadians ever get a vote on any issue? All Canadians get, the only thing you get to do as far as voting is which political master or party that you want. That's what you have. You don't get to have any say in actual policy. Even with all the platforms that the parties put out there, you don't get to have any say in what's actually implemented. What now, if they don't implement the kind of policies you want, you can pick a different leader or a ruler, right? That's the only option you get in Canada, or actually under most Western democracies. Racist Derek. Canada needs a new plan. Yeah, the plan is, like I say, treat people like adults. I know that's a novel concept, because I don't know, most people are raised today to still think of themselves or perceive themselves as like I say, adolescents. And they need authoritarian mommy or daddy to lead them down the road of economic sensibility or social responsibility. Because Canadians don't know how to figure shit out on their own once they become adults, apparently. Sad reality that we live in, folks. Also, with Maxime and Sure First Nations treaties. Hey, with Maxime, actually, I think, now I can't say 100% that I know for certainty, but I'll tell you, if I was Maxime, here's how it would work with all these treaties and all this shit when it comes to, I don't care, First Nations or anybody, is, once again, I'm going to treat you like an adult. There ain't going to be any more handouts from anybody. But I tell you what, you get 100% of your sovereignty, right? That's, if I was Maxime, like for First Nations or anybody out there, like I don't pick from groups, right? Every individual, what I would say is like, hey, I'm going to respect your sovereignty. And how I truly respect your sovereignty is you got your own rights and responsibilities, and that's all on you. It's not, sorry, you don't get to take from me. And you don't get to, just because Trudeau is virtue signaling that, oh, we're all of a sudden genocidal. Sorry, you don't get to plunder my income, because last time I checked, I didn't use genocide towards anybody. But what I will do is, yes, you should have, if you're a First Nations person or an Aboriginal in this country, you should have complete autonomy and sovereignty over your own goddamn life. And I want that to be the case. But you know what comes with sovereignty, right? You want sovereignty? I want sovereignty. You know what it requires, though, for you to have sovereignty? Responsibility, which means, I don't know, some people that are in the First Nations that rely on a lot of federal funding might not like that. But you know what? Hey, suck it up, buttercup, because that's what it is. If you want to be, sovereign, you want to have your rights and your freedoms respected and your liberties upheld, well, then you got to take that. And if you want the state to relinquish its grip and control on you, well, that means you got to pick up the mantle and the torch and say, okay, I'm gonna carry that torch, and that I'm gonna make sure that's shining bright, that I can lead my own goddamn way without someone else telling me how I have to go or supporting me. That's as far as I'm concerned how it should be. And Maxime, hopefully, I think, as far as I understand, I think he would respect the sovereignty of First Nations people. But once again, I'm pretty sure he'd be on side and on board with what I'm saying. Is like, okay, but don't try to force Bennett to pay for anyone. Nobody's forced to pay for my shit. So why the hell am I going to be forced to pay for anyone else? Like I say, I'll gladly assume my personal responsibility. Will you? How's the okay, let's get down here. Nationalize gold and oil again. Do it. Why would you not want to nationalize? Why would you want to place nationalize means you place part of the economy literally in the government's hand. What? You want to go Venezuela? You want to go full Venezuela? Yeah, let's nationalize everything. What the hell? Oh, you're in the wrong stream, by the way. You have no collectivism, no socialism, no communism in here. Sorry. You're not going to find that in this stream. Jesus Christ. Who gave Max the money, AJ? I don't know, man. I think it's quite conspiratorial. Be honest with you. I really think there was something underhand and nefarious. And who the hell would ever figure how could you ever construct or conjure up? Where could you find $1.3 million in a population of 36 million Canadians? Man, that must be difficult to conjure up 1.3 million. Really, though? It's fucking chump change in the grand scheme of things. Worried about 1.3 million. It's like some one ultra wealthy crony corporatist dipshit probably loses $1.3 million out of his pocket in the run of a day. Oh shit, where'd that go? Damn, it lost me $1 million. Oh well, I'll get it by big government and central banking that will stimulate the economy. I'll make that back up in 10 minutes, right? But why would but it's a big deal that Maxime, with 30,000 supporters, 40,000. Ooh, they got a $1.3 million big. Ooh, what a chest, right? Ooh, war chest. That commie yuck. You're uneducated on the First Nations matter. Hey, listen, dude. Oh, okay, I will do that, Rance. Just give me one sec there, buddy. But Todd, I think you actually reached out to me on my Facebook page, didn't you, Todd? Hey, come on to the channel, man, anytime. You want to educate and inform me? Like I say, I give everybody the opportunity to speak. I'm not shy about it. Okay, let me go find Rants here. But yeah, if you want to educate me as far as some First Nation stuff, dig right into it. It's a thing. I don't take an ideological stance. I don't mind having people tell me things that maybe I'm not particularly familiar with. I can't know everything, right? That's literally impossible. Can't know everything. Just trying to send off. Just one sec here, folks. I'm going to send it. Where did it go? Here we go. It's going to Derek, if you're watching there, buddy, I'm going to send it to Facebook, okay? On your Facebook page in a message. So just give me one sec there, buddy. Okay, here we go. Bada bing, bada boom. Clickety click, barba trick. That's an old cartoon. Anyone remember that? I'm going to check actually here in the stream here. Let's one sec here. Ah, shit. Yeah, does anybody remember Clickety Click Barbara Trick? Anybody? What TV show that come from? Store all the cash in Toronto Skydome. Yeah. That's commie yuck. Now we take a percent of the resource. Well, that's good. Hey, listen, everyone should have access to, well, especially if it's on your particular land or so, someone you should be rewarded for if it's part of your parcel of land or property. Of course, people should be rewarded from that. But you also shouldn't just make money just by sheer fact that someone redisputes it based on the pretense that, oh, you're just part of some collective, therefore you should be an automatic recipient. Natural law, the spirit of the law by God's decree. Damn, that went down fast again. Shit, everything's going so quick here again. So you're good with selling weapons for money and drugs to support death squads? Oh yeah, man, that's what I'm all about. What are you talking about? So you're good with selling weapons for money, and I would assume that means drugs, not rugs, to support death squads. Where did I say that? Hey, is that Kathy Newman? Wait a minute. I know the name says Todd on here, but that sounds very Kathy Newman-ish. So you're what? Right? What's that? You're putting words in my mouth there, dude. I never said no such thing. That's what you're trying to allude to. Don't try to Kathy Newman me. Shit. Beg for incompetent masters to serve themselves. That's the clown's question. A good answer. I'll be waiting for until death. I don't know who you're talking about there, but anyways, that's hilarious. In Central America. Central America. I live in Canada, by the way. What's going on in Central America? Hey, guess what? That's up to the Central Americans. Maybe they should be doing something and getting themselves out from underneath the oppressive regimes that they've been living under for so goddamn long. Yeah, that's their responsibility, not mine. I'll worry about my own backyard. Thank you very much. I'm still looking for my 1.3. Me too. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm a pretty reasonable dude. I'll even leave the 1 and just give me the 300,000 for now. I can get by with that for a little while, a couple days. I'm with you there, Leo. I want my 1.3 mil. Governments can't run themselves. Why would people trust them to run industry? Exactly. Yeah. You mean crony capitalism and crony capitalism. Yeah. Not a fan of crony capitalism. Our economy is based on the USA dollar. No, the economy isn't based on the US dollar. The US dollar is the world's reserve currency. That's what that is. Matter of fact, I don't think there should be any fiat-based reserve currency. I think if you're going to have a reserve currency for the world, it should be backed by something such as a hard commodity such as gold, or something that can't be quite as easily or readily manipulated. Now, as much as I'm a fan of blockchain technology and like things such as Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, or Ethereum, I don't ever want to go full digital either, because digital is another way, even though it is decentralized and it is encrypted stuff. I want to have the ability that if you just want to go out somewhere and exchange, monetary compensation for a particular product or a service, I want that to be able to be done without any paper trail, which means you require or you need something that would be along the lines of cash. Like I say, there's lots of geniuses out there on the planet that can figure this stuff out. The problem is, though, how do you implement this stuff when central bankers and central governments prevent you from creating or conjuring up your own form of currency? Right? That's the thing. We're all forced to use the currencies implemented and created by the state or multiple states around the world that have been greatly devalued. The U.S. currency alone, I believe, has been devalued to the point, if you go from 1913, when the central bank of the U.S. was formed, till now, I believe the U.S. has actually lost 97% of its purchasing power in just 100 years. So that's a huge drop off in your purchasing power. Think about how much a dollar would be worth if it wasn't for the fact that central banks get to manipulate and devalue what your purchasing power truly entails.
Hey, Bennett, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on? I'm just trying to read the comments here, buddy. What's going on, Derek?
Not much. I just thought I would take advantage of coming onto your stream while you're here.
Damn right.
We got cut off kind of short the last time we were doing a stream because my crappy potato modem, my signal out here in the country.
Yeah, I know that sucks, man. Actually, that shit bugs me because in the country there, and that's the same with my house back east right now. It's pretty crappy spot. You get like, was it? Do you have actual Bell or Rogers, or is it ExploreNet you use or something like that?
I'm on Bell right now.
Oh, okay, yeah, because where my house is, you can't. Bell is like the slowest thing known to man. Although you do have that as an option, but they have ExploreNet. But even then, it's really pathetic, and it's almost impossible. That's the other area as far as people in rural communities such as yourself, and man or woman could create lots of little small businesses if you had actually access to some decent internet speeds. Although I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, people like Elon Musk are working on it. They just did their first test, or not test, but a full-on launch, and they've implemented or put 60, I believe, of their low Earth orbiting satellites, their LEOs, up there. And I think at the end, I think they need over 1,000 of them in total to cover the entire coverage of the Earth. But once they get all of them up there, then we won't have to rely on just ground-based infrastructure for our internet. So that means, people in rural communities such as yourself, or, people in the middle of a desert even, you'll be able to get a good, decent, healthy internet connection. So hopefully, that's still something that's going to be probably quite a ways off, a year or two, but eventually.
Oh, sure, but then you got to run into new problems like, I don't have internet because my satellite went on a plane route and I could see them both coming down in flames right now.
Well, the whole point of why they're even doing them in the low Earth, which is why you need so many of them, because obviously it's much easier if they put them like many dozens or hundreds of kilometers outside, because then you need less satellites for coverage. But then you do, like you say, then you have the problem with weather and storms and all these things. But the way they're doing it, from what I understand anyways, I'm not technically savvy enough to know exactly how this is going to play out, but the reason why they're putting them in very low Earth orbits is so that like storms and many different things won't have as much of effect on them. So you'll still have good coverage from what they're saying anyways. I don't know. Like I say, we'll have to see how that pans out when it's all actually put into practice. But I would really love to see the day when we actually have good internet coverage in Canada, coast to coast and everywhere in between, because that's the sad reality. And this is other than in your big major urban centers, the rest of Canada, it's pretty sparse, and your competition and your choices are pretty limited.
Yeah, well, I think Canada needs to be wary of where we get our quicker internet speed from, because they're looking at 5G right now. And from what I understand, that pretty much boils your brain like an egg.
Yeah, that stuff doesn't sound real good. From what, like I say, that's technical areas where I'd have to yield to someone with a lot more knowledge on that than myself. But it does seem that it wouldn't be the best possible scenario, which is why, like I say, in a market environment such as what we should have today, is I'd like to see lots of different innovative ideas come to exist and see, like I say, which works best. That's the only time the only way we're actually going to know what's going to be, most beneficial to people, is just allow some of that market competition to take place. And if it has to be the low Earth orbiting satellites, or what was it back even a few years ago? What was it? Facebook or one of them, when it was saying that they were going to use some kind of drones that can stay up for long periods of time. There was going to be, they were
I don't know if I would trust Facebook with anything these days. They're trying to come up with a cryptocurrency too, and that scares me, especially with the social credit that they've been talking about.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's the thing. You just never know what's happening underneath as far as what some of these people are trying to implement. Because, if you're not part of the insider or connected in these groups, yeah, who knows what the underlying intentions are. Although cryptocurrencies or anything blockchain based, I think actually I'm not too overly threatened by that, because it does give you the ability. You're on Minds, are you, Derek? Are you not?
I do have an account, but I haven't been very active on it.
Okay, because right now on Minds, I think I was mentioning this yesterday even, they're transitioning to, they haven't completely yet because they want to make sure everything's proper before they do. But if you go on Minds and you post something, or you attribute anything, or you spend much time, or you like other people's posts, or you share it, you get what's called like a portion of a token. And those tokens build up over time. And those tokens have no actual intrinsic value other than on Minds. But because they've correlated and tied it in with Ethereum, a blockchain-based cryptocurrency, you can convert your tokens to Ethereum. Then if you want, like I checked mine out yesterday, it's not much money, but I think I'm only at like $12, I guess, or whatever. But I could actually convert the tokens. Of course, I don't spend near as much time on mines as I probably should, so it'd probably much higher if I did. But you can convert. So from your tokens, you can convert to, like I say, your blockchain, on-chain, they call it, currency such as your Ethereum. Then you can actually convert that to Canadian dollars. So I could actually, if I wanted to, it could go to an ATM or actually just do it as on an online transaction and actually have that paid out to me in Canadian dollars. So blockchain's not actually a bad idea. And because it is decentralized, there won't be any ability for government or anyone to destroy that ability for you to make monetary compensation. But I understand why you're concerned with it, because like you're suggesting, some of these establishment players on social media are doing some nefarious things that even myself, I'm a little concerned about in these.
Well, that actually brings me to the digital charter. I'm going to leave a link here in the chat for a petition that I started to come up with an internet-based constitution. It's not really Canada style to have a constitution. We're more charter of rights and freedoms bullshit type country, but I figured I'd give it a try. I've never actually actively tried democracy before, so I figure before I advocate for burning the whole system down, I'd give it an honest try first.
Yeah.
So I'm going to need about 1,000 signatures a day just for the thing to get noticed, to be honest.
Well, I got to be honest with you, Derek. I have no faith in either petitions or protests. And the reason why is because it's basically, to me, it's virtue signaling or pleading or basically begging someone in some position of authority to get. And I've never seen how it's actually, because I know in the US, even under, what was it, Obama, and once you get over a particular threshold, he had to read whatever came of it. Nothing other than some media talking points. But it doesn't, like I say, these petitions or even protests, unless there's a large, substantial, like even if you got 100,000 signers, they'll still be able to show, well, what would that be as a fraction, as a percentage of the Canadian population? Pretty minuscule. So you might get someone that might acknowledge it, but once again, it's just to placate you and think that, well, at least you had some way to actively involve in the democratic process. But actually, here's one thing that I'm not sure, you must know it by now, but yeah, I'm not even a fan of democracy, to be honest. Democracy is just mob rule. I don't give, I mean, yours sounds good, right? Because you're looking, but I mean, if someone comes up, and they do it all the time, that's how our laws are written, and regulations and legislation is, if you can get a majority of Canadians on board with trying to shut me up, well, sorry if I don't care what the majority thinks, or, that I just never been a fan of mob rule, which is what democracy is.
And that's the intention behind this constitution that I'm trying to draw up. It's to protect unpopular opinion, not popular opinion. And I agree with you. I don't believe protesting or petitions work, but I have to try it to be able to say that I've, to be able to confidently say afterwards that it doesn't work.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Try. So do I think it'll work? No. Is it a good idea? Yeah. But will it get noticed? Probably not.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And like I say, that it goes back to, once again, even in the importance of what the founding fathers of the U.S. pretty much understood first and foremost is, we're going to try to set up all these things, like I say, a constitution, and they were very wise as far as using the proper wording, and so that it shouldn't have been easily misconstrued. But once again, look at, a couple hundred years later and multiple generations later, look at how far away even the country of the U.S. is governed in comparison to what's actually suggested or listed in the Constitution. In the Constitution, there was never even any provision for a standing army. There was never supposed to be a standing army in the United States ever. That was the whole point of the militias, right? But once again, once you get legalese or people that want to interpret, these words in a particular, from a political stance or viewpoint, then you can just make it mean whatever the hell you want. Right?
There is going to come a time where they've just veered too far away from the Constitution, and patriots will reclaim it, I think. And I think we're actually almost there. We're at a point where, we're deviating too far away from the originated path, and it's going to take some tree cutting to get back there, to be honest.
You're right, Derek. The problem is, though, that only works if you have a properly educated, informed society, because there's a small percentage of the American population that fully grasp and understand how far they are away from the fundamental principles that were enshrined in the Constitution. But most of the people that come out of these education systems in the public sector predominantly is they're not even taught about the Federalist Papers. They're not taught about enough of the history. They're basically given like a 30-second soundbite that they can repeat or regurgitate as far as what the Constitution means or entails. But none of them are given a proper education unless they go into that field, like a particular field of study in the post-secondary part of their education. Most of them are coming out, they don't even actually fully understand, because a lot of the people that are part of the education system, they even talk about it being a living document. But that's never how it was drafted. The Constitution was drafted as, no, you don't get to change it or reinterpret it. It was meant to be, no, this is what it's supposed to be. And the only way you could ever change or upend it was with 2/3 majority. It would have been such a Herculean task and required such a concerted effort to even try to upend or circumvent what was naturally contained within that document. But now, like I say, because of activist judges and people using so many different forms of the English language that interprets it in legalese manner, that it's just whatever they want to put forth as far as how they decide. I mean, even look at all the different judges down that are preventing the pipelines from being built. Obviously, there would have been enshrined that commerce would have been an important part of the U.S. Republic. But the fact that the judges can interpret that you can basically shut off economic growth because of some interpretation of some environmental policy that would have come subsequent to the implementation of the Constitution, it really does. We really do live in a world where, as much as we respect, and I do, man, I love the U.S. Constitution as far as the document. I can't even imagine how, if you could try to figure one out in 2019, how you would draft one even better. You could probably do a little bit more of an improvements to double down on, okay, you can't mess with this after the fact, but it's so difficult to do it because, once again, after you get by a generation or two, it's like the story of one guy sitting on a bench and there's 10 people in between. By the time that story gets to the guy on the other side of the bench, it's not even really aligned with actually what was said on the other side.
I agree with you. And I think the percentage of the population of the states is a little bigger than what you may think it is, because a lot of those people get mixed up with their education and furthering their education, and they get so lost into this indoctrination that that's what they know. But there's a big percentage of the people in the flyover states that never got that education and kept with their original morals and values. And that's the majority that voted for Trump. People like to point at them and say, oh, you're uneducated and you're stupid. No, they stick to their morals. That's all they care about, is their morals, and not this, elaborate way of finding excuses to be able to do things that you want. I don't know. I'm not sure if that came out right.
No, but you're right. And actually, it's not just in the Midwest or the Rust Belt. It's also even down into some of the central part of the U.S. states, or in Texas in particular. Like you say, there are some people that understand the importance of the Constitution. It's just that when you're relying on people that are going to be the representation of a majority of people who vote, which is what you're talking about today, even in the electoral college system, is people that want to interpret it in a different manner. All they have to do is place, whether it's a Democratic senator or congressman or governor, they just have to place those people in the position where, once again, once they get in there, they can interpret it however they see fit. And it's a sad reality, because then you have to go through the process of the Supreme Court. But even when you get to the process of the Supreme Court, now, one thing I will admit is, it's kind of good that this is all coming out now, is prior to all this being aired openly, and it's happening in the U.S., it's not happening in Canada, but thankfully in the U.S., they actually admit, because they're so vocal in their opposition to each other, they basically admit that Trump is now appointing conservative, Republican-leaning judges. So that literally tells you that the courts prior to that was stacked 5-4, predominantly in the favor of the Democrats, or people that would more or less align with democracies or majority mob rule, rather than the law type of system that was set up under republic structure. So it really, once again, even under that scenario, it's interpreted by 5 individuals. Whoever gets the majority, once again, gets to interpret the law of the land, and look how it's been done. Now you have the area like where there's states or the federal portion of the government where they're denying people their gun rights in certain areas, in certain regards.
They're giving voting rights to immigrants.
Yeah,
If you get your driver's license in LA, you can vote. What?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's lots of areas where they're completely denying the American people's ability. But see, that's the thing. Things have changed so far past what the original Constitution. There would have never been a welfare state ever implemented if the Constitution was drafted properly, because you can't forcefully take from. There wouldn't have even been an income tax. There wasn't an income tax.
Right.
Income tax only come to exist, as a result, a consequence of basically the first war. And in Canada, it was in 1913, basically as a means, and it was very small percentage of people, and it wasn't everyone. It was actually the people that actually had money to pay for some of the war efforts. But once again, that goalpost, look how far we are today. Now you have Canadians and Americans basically having half of their income taken away from them arbitrarily through some edict of legislation, which the Constitution was written in a manner that legislation should have never even come to exist, because the Constitution said, no, you can't have legislation that tries to overrule or override what's contained within the Constitution, which means you just can't arbitrarily take from people without their permission. That was the point of property rights, right? And people's, and not having theft and confiscation of people's incomes. But we're so far beyond that. And like I say, because you and I, we understand these things, but the majority of the people, they've been educated in a system that have taught them not to think about these things critically at all, and just accept that being part of society is that you just have to pay to some central planner, and just think of it that you're just doing it for the greater good, and you're being benevolent for doing so. So sit down, shut up, and accept the fact that your income needs to be confiscated for the greater.
Yeah, you get a lot of that in Canada. Oh, you don't like socialism? Why don't you just leave? Well, I can't fucking afford it. You guys keep robbing me.
Yeah. Well, I actually had a conversation with a gentleman. I'm not going to bring up any names anymore, because people that might watch it say, oh, he's talking about me. But of someone that basically was talking about the same more or less about these healthcare systems and stuff. It's like, I'm totally on board. But if you take into account, and there was a study that came out, a CBC report on it's quite a while ago. I can't remember everything, but I always place the links to all the articles I do in my videos. But basically, it worked out to, I think it was $15,000 per year for a typical, what they would have considered someone that made 60, 70,000. I think at that time they were saying someone that was in the upper middle class, but $15,000 of your income per year is going to like healthcare and things such as that. How many people are using $15,000 a year, right?
1% of the population uses the majority of our healthcare services.
Right. So like, you think about it. I mean, to me, if in the grand scheme of things, because things have been made so difficult, and so they've ramped up the amount of theft and the confiscation of your wealth to the point where I think most of us, actually, I could put away, if you gave me that $15,000 a year, even if I had to have some major surgery performed at some point in time in my life, 10 years, right? That's $150,000. You can get quite an extensive surgery for $150,000 goddamn dollars. As a matter of fact, if we didn't have a socialized healthcare system, you would have doctors that would be somehow trying to compete for people's businesses, and you would find the ones, you would want to, just like as if you went to buy auto parts. You don't want to pay the cheap guy, because you might not get the best surgery, right?
And if you had that money as well, I mean, you also have the freedom to then take that money and levy it towards a house or something like that, knowing that you're risking your health to do so, but you always have that house to sell in that case as well. Yeah, personal responsibility and freedom is something that I'm not sure we'll be able to get back to here in Canada.
Well, you know how it works. Just think, you have kids, right, Derek? You have a daughter, right? Yeah. So you know yourself how that goes. And anyone that's raised a kid, and you were a kid yourself, I was a kid myself, it's an unfortunate thing, but there's going to have to be some hardships, and Canadians just have not, for the most part, have had to go through really much as far as economic hardships. Now, individual actors, of course, per se, but I'm talking as a generalized statement for most Canadians, in comparison and contrast to many people around the world, haven't had to go through that kind of reflection on just how things should be properly done. And I think the only way we're going to get to the point where we will change and affect people's habits and behaviors is being what the left considers a heartless conservative, or what. I'm sorry, folks, but it's not that you have to be heartless, but you do have to, just even with my kids, if I just kept giving to them everything for all of eternity and never taught them to be self-reliant or self-sufficient, well, I would be stuck forever. I'd have kids that would rely on socialism for me for the rest of their life. So we have to, not be cruel. I don't want to be cruel to my kids, and I would never want people in society to be cruel to people that are in precarious economic situations. And those people, like I say, but the most people that are in those precarious situations that are not a consequence of anything they've done. It's just a natural extent of maybe something that's happened outside their control. But that represents a small percentage of the Canadian population. Most people are just reckless and irresponsible by sheer fact that they're living in an economic environment where they don't understand the importance of saving for the long term, because every time they get themselves in trouble, government or somehow finds a way to bail them out. So it's nobody's getting the proper incentives anymore to do the right thing for the long term. But I think if we get to the point, like if 2008, I said this even yesterday, if the 2008 crash had have actually not just happened in the US, but happened all over the Western world and forced the people that were taking advantage of that current system had to actually really suffer without being bailed out. And I don't mean just the poor people that bought homes. I mean these corporate execs, or these people from Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or the CMHA in Canada, some of these crony corporations, or these bankers, or these real estate execs. If everyone wasn't bailed, if all these people weren't bailed out with taxpayer dollars, trust me, they would have changed and affected not just their psychology and their mentality as far as economic transactions, but they'd be doing things on a much better manner going forward. But they're not. And why would they? No one's ever told them or taught them, hey, this is the wrong way to do things. They just keep bailing them out. They keep kicking that can down the road, because I think most people look out there today is like, hey, things are pretty good. We don't want to rock the boat. But you know what? It's not good for some people. It's good for others, but it's really bad for some people that are trying to do the right thing, like you or I'm trying to do the right thing. It's not working out good for me. It's working out good if you're reckless and irresponsible. But once again, we'll look at what kind of incentive that's doing to the culture in Canada. Now you're incentivizing people to do the wrong thing and punishing the people that are trying to save or do the right thing. That's not good for society, not as far as I'm concerned.
I think you're absolutely right. It does make it harder for people like you and myself that actually do want to stay on the right path and earn a living for yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, how are you going to save? Even right now, if you put money in the bank, like when I was a kid, you were probably the same when you were younger. Your parents take you down to the local bank, right? Get you your first little book, that little book that used to flip open.
Yeah, a little statement book that had all your transactions in it.
Yeah, right. But they would show you, like, look, you put this $5 in there from your paper route, and if you leave it in there long enough, the interest rate.
Yep.
At that time, the interest rate was higher than your inflation rate, and you'll see that there will be an added benefit for you saving. So the incentive was like, oh, look, if I save my money, if I'm responsible, if I'm not just out recklessly spending it on just blind consumption, that will actually grow in dividends and actually get larger. And then I can use that to benefit myself even more. But today, because in interest rates for most people in their banking institutions are below and below the inflation rate, actually, there's no point or no reason for anyone to stash your money in the bank, because you're literally losing it while it's sitting in there. So what the central bankers and what central governments are trying to do is, by stimulating the economy, is just as soon as you get your paycheck, get out there and spend it as quick as human as possible. But once again, you're not doing anything for the long run. You're giving yourself that quick fix in the here and now, but you're not doing those things that are good for the long run, which is, once again, plays into the intergenerational theft that we're seeing today, whereas governments are doing the same thing. And what a private person like you or I do, like you or I, actually, the difference is you and I couldn't just raise our ramp up our credit cards and say, hey, your daughter or my 2 cents, you guys all have to pay for that. I'm not going to pay for it. But the way the governments are setting it up is they can ramp up all this escalation in spending to keep people subdued and thinking that everything's going along great. But all you're doing is offloading the responsibility to pay back all that shit onto your daughter and my 2 sons. And why would anyone think that that's a good or a proper way to do things? Because who knows what their economic prosperity is going to be like in the future. I at least want to give them a leg up or a chance in life. But if we're already basically taking one of their hands and one of their feet and tying them behind the back as far as debt obligations or unfunded liabilities that they didn't even impose on themselves or didn't choose to enter into, what are we going to do as far as what their future is going to be like? How devastating it's going to be for them if they don't get the ability to not just compensate themselves and reward themselves. That's going to be in reflection to that, but it's going to keep them, like I say, at the housing market. And look at how it's doing. I know even my own kids, they would love to get into a home, but who could afford to buy a home? So it's causing a lot of them to even postpone and put off even having families, which once again plays into the demographics. And another area where, well, we need to bring more and more young people to fill these jobs for all these boomers. Well, you know what? If you incentivize the younger people in Canada today properly, if you gave them some freedom, they'd figure a way whether it's through innovation or creativity or technology, or just like I say, having their own families and raising their own families in their own households. That's a way to put a backstop against some of the demographic shifts. But once again, that means completely upending and circumventing all the policy positions that they've been using now. So rather than do it the proper way, they just figure, let's just bring in a whole bunch of people from third world or emerging countries and hope that that will paint over the mistakes in the past. Like I say, I don't think it's going to work out properly for not even some of these immigrants.
Well, what you were saying about the interest rates, and a lot of reports have been saying that most Canadians are $200 away from total insolvency.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't be putting that money away, you're actually paying more money to bank fees that come out every month for between $10 and $20 than what you're getting on interest. So you can't get ahead no matter what.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people, I'm sure you might even know some yourself, that are using this constant increased speculative value of their housing. So they get themselves into trouble and they can't really afford to get through the next year. But hey, if your house has gone up by an estimated value of, let's say, $50,000, you can go back to your bank and use part of your HELOC, that home equity line of credit, and now get a higher limit on that, because now your home, you have more equity built up in your home speculatively, because really it's truly speculatively, because your home tomorrow, just like the people in the US, if you go through an actual crash or correction, well, that home that you think is worth $1 million, if it turns out to be it's only 500,000 tomorrow, you're in yourself a lot of trouble, and you're underwater. But people today are doing that, kicking the can down the road by relying on that speculative increased valuation of their home to now say, whoo, I don't have to go out and get myself a better job, because now I can just use that home equity line of credit to pay for my mortgage or the interest payments on my credit cards for the next year. So I'm okay. But all you're doing, like I say, yeah, you're kicking that can down the road, but think about the debt load and the levels is just getting higher and higher and higher. Sure, you can push that off into the future, but the future is going to come at some point in time. You don't get to press pause on time and say, okay, let's just leave it right here. That future is going to come at some point in time. And whether it's you that's going to have to deal with it or your kids, somebody's going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, that's we're kind of treating our kids and ourselves like drug addicts. We're just borrowing happiness from tomorrow just to be happier today. It's exactly what we're doing. I'm sure you've been watching what's been going on with the censorship and what I mentioned with the digital charter and that. Have you noticed Justin Trudeau on June 25th is going to be releasing 10 YouTube influencers that are being paid by the government?
No, I didn't hear, but when did that get reported? I'm surprised I missed that one, Derek.
I'll see if I could try and bring it up for the actual stream that we're doing. But I can't wait till they come out. That'll give me material forever.
So they're going to have they're actually implementing a ministry of truth.
Yep, and I can't wait to see who these influencers are that they've hired.
Wow,
something that I can show you.
Did you see that article that I actually shared? And actually, I watched Molyneux's video earlier today about it, because he was put out there front and center. So in so many areas and examples. It's a New York Times article. I'm just clicking on it here now. Caleb Kane was a college dropout looking for direction. He turned to YouTube. What's the actual headline here? Let me scroll down again. I got to remember what the headline was. Yeah, The Making of a YouTube Radical by Kevin Roos. Anyways,
I did see something about that, and it brings back to what Michael Cooper was trying to say in the House of Commons. They were trying to bring up something relevant to what was going on in the House of Commons, and they stricken it from the record to show that the New Zealand shooter was actually more in line with the Chinese Communist Party and an eco-fascist. Said he hated conservatism. So yeah, that being stricken from the record's kind of scary. They're just shaping history, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I was actually talking to Leo about that yesterday in my live stream. And yeah, the fact that they're trying to play this kind of stuff where you're trying to rewrite history in such a manner or deny the guy the ability to, because what he said, there was nothing outrageous or bombastic. He was just basically, like you were saying, he was quoting from that shooter's, what he put out there as manifesto or whatever, basically saying that, yeah, he's a big fan of but even by daring to push back against that and suggest that he wasn't necessarily a conservative per se. Yeah, he's being, and the conservatives in this country, that's the part that bothers me the most, is not just the fact that the person was attacked, because political opportunists are going to take advantage of their opportunism. The fact that the conservatives, though, in this country, well, predominantly like the sheer conservatives, no one other than Maxime is willing to stand up and defend this person and say, no, he should be able to say, just like I even made that video about that, what was it, Marie Babick, or people that get in trouble for some of the things. I think she was saying something about the residential schools or something. And I'm not saying that I agree everything that what she said, obviously, but what the hell, where did we get to the point in Canada where, well, that's the thing. And now in the age of social media, this stuff probably did happen even before you and I knew about it, but because everything is now so open and so out there, and now we're actually getting the real world examples where, you know, people are being silenced, having their voices silenced. And even if it is controversial, like I would admit that what some of the things that lady said might have been controversial, but you know what the hell, that's the only thing. That's the point of freedom of speech. There's freedom of speech was never meant to deal with things that people have considered socially acceptable. You don't need freedom of speech if it's socially acceptable. Right?
No, that's true.
The whole point of freedom of speech is to defend people to say things that aren't socially acceptable. And the only caveats, the only restrictions that have ever been placed on a proper limitation as far as freedom of speech that most people would accept is the fact of, like, you know, soliciting violence in the here and now, where there's a direct threat to someone to harm someone in some way. Other than that, hate speech, once again, in the US, no such thing. And the fact that Canadians try to talk about that what we're superior to the US in some way because we actually prevent people from speaking things that's hateful. I think freedom, an expansion of freedom, is actually superior to a restriction of freedom. So as far as I'm concerned, the fact that there is no such thing as hate speech under US law makes them actually more superior to Canada as far as respecting people's rights, freedoms, and liberties. But in Canada, the political class, the ruling class, and the media class tries to completely upend that as if we're superior to the Americans because we don't allow for misinformation or hate speech. No, actually, proper liberty, if you understand what freedom and liberty entails, is you have to afford things to people that you don't even like yourself. That's the point of the freedom of speech is you don't like it, I don't like it, let's say, but I'll defend to the death your ability to say what you got to say. That to me is much more important than caring about or concerning people with other people's sensibility. I'd rather shock someone's sensibility with something that's uncomfortable to them, because to be honest with you, that's really how you break people out of their own current paradigm, is shocking their senses. And the only way you can do that is saying things that, you know, comes at them from an angle that will challenge their orthodoxy. Because if you just say it in a manner that's conducive with their thought processes already, and you're not challenging them, they're just going to continue on thinking in the same way. You have to say something that's shocking, or at least bombastic or outrageous in some way, if you want people to actually pay attention to it. And I mean, how many times has this been done? And the minute you do that to prove your point, then the media steps up the plate and says, oh, look at how, but you know what? The people in the media prove every time is the only reason why you're paying attention to this person, this right wing or whatever, is because they had to say something that was controversial for you to even pay attention to them. So actually, when they're doing that, it kind of proves the point that you need someone to have controversial opinions to even take notice and actually stir up and engage in actual debate or discourse as far as what should be discussed in regards to politics.
Before we get too far away from it there, I wanted to show you this article. I don't know if you can see it.
Okay,
Trudeau Liberals to release social media influencers June 25th. Elections Canada isn't saying who it's hired to promote voter participation in the coming federal election, except that they are 13 social media influencers that include YouTubers, Olympians, TV stars, and musicians.
Did you say you just posted it on the chat?
No, I put it up on my screen instead of my face. Could you see it?
Okay, hold on. I got it because I'm on the part with the chat here. I'm not on the regular screen. Okay, let me take a look here again.
I'm pretty sure it worked.
Yeah, I probably did. I just had it on the, you know, the other part that has the chat there.
Yeah.
I was looking at the chat part and it's like a little bit behind, but I didn't see it at the moment. But yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. I can't believe they would go to, oh, I see Gatos.
Well, I can't wait to see if they're calling them influencers. I mean, it's one thing to promote voting, but to try and influence your vote one way or the other is a direct violation of our charter and rights and freedoms.
Yeah, no, like I say, they're completely circumventing and upending. And I think what it is they realize that most Canadians aren't informed enough. And this is a sad part about multiple generations being raised and indoctrinated by people that don't even have the ability to think critically about things, is now they realize that you can write laws and rules and regulation that completely circumvents and undermines any of our supposed enshrined rights or freedoms, just by the simple fact that it seems to be politically correct to do so. And that's the part that concerns me the most, because how do you get out from underneath the fact that a majority of the Canadian people are willing to accept this, whether they like it or not? You do have a substantial, or not majority, I guess, but enough to put, people such as Justin Trudeau in power that will support this kind of suppression or denial of people's own internal biases or opinions, and even allow for people to have the ability to tell you that my way is the only way that you should think about things. Because that's basically what they're saying. If you're talking about, these influencers, they're saying that my opinion is basically the only way. And now, as much as myself, I believe that I'm usually fairly correct in most of my assumptions, because I stick with universal morals and ethics as the basis for my. But once again, even myself, even as much as I think I'm probably correct, I would never want to deny anyone else their ability to challenge me. Right? Because the only way I'm ever going to break free from my own current paradigm is if someone challenges me. So the fact that they're trying to create some kind of institution or some setup where you don't have to use your own brain anymore, just rely on us, we'll figure that out for you. That's quite devastating as far as getting people up to speed and properly informed, or at least accepting and adopting their own personal responsibility. Now it's just creating more laziness, as if there's not enough laziness or ineptness as far as economic and social policy. Now, even as far as media and news that we gather, now people are going to be able to just rely on the ministry of truth to tell them what's right or wrong.
Well, John Cleese said it best recently in one of his tweets. He said, those of who cannot control their emotions try to control other people's actions.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, it was a good quote. I've used it a few times since then.
Well, that's actually perfect. It's so true. It's so true, because that's what you got to do, right? That's basically what especially
actually, what was a good example? I don't know if you've been able to catch Kanye West's interview with David Letterman, and this isn't normally something that I would watch, to be honest with you, but it was on Netflix, and I watched it because I caught a couple of clips on it on YouTube, and it's very telling about what they're trying to do to Kanye West. You see, they gave him a Netflix contract in which he will not be able to speak about this interview after it's out, because they have him under contract, and they're going to edit it any which way they want to make it seem like he's more about mental illness than actually being somebody that knows what he's talking about. And even the way David Letterman was actually pitting him against himself, and Kanye, you got to watch it. It was very good. I don't trust David Letterman at all anymore. I now think he's a manipulative wizard. He was funny back in the day, but the way I've seen him talk to Gwyneth Paltrow during the Harvey Weinstein accusations and stuff, and the way he was treating her during the interviews prior to that, Harvey, did a lot of things for you. So, and he was really trying to suppress what she was trying to say. David Letterman is part of that Hollywood elite, unfortunately. I used to think he used to stand alone and have his own opinion, but he's part of that Hollywood elite. The way he was trying to pick on Kanye, and Kanye had literally just said at the beginning of this interview, instead of trying to go things head on and combatant, he tries to go with the flow and make things flow in that. And David Letterman actually took advantage of that and tried to bring him down a notch for wearing the Trump hat. And Kanye was trying to get around it. But I think Kanye has actually played a card a year ago or two ago that's actually going to be beneficial in the future. See, he said he was bipolar. And now people just write him off as crazy when he does something crazy, whatever. He can just go on stage, say, blah, 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 whatever. He's crazy, and just goes home. He doesn't have to worry about people, the mob, or anybody coming after him and all this crap. It's like, no, I'm sorry, I'm bipolar. But he got his message out.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, it's funny you talking about Kanye, because it reminded me of, I didn't even get to finish watching it. I just saw it on my recommended video in my YouTube feed this morning. It's like, really? Scott Baio, right? Was it Scott Baio? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Candace Owens, because she talks a lot about Kanye West, but you know who Candace Owens is. Apparently, Scott Baio, another one of these Hollywood actors, he's like, God damn, things are getting ridiculous over here. And now I guess he's gone red pilling, right?
He was red pilled a while ago. I remember him cheering for Trump a while ago, and people were making fun of him when he said he talks the way I talk. And people were like, well, if you talk the way Trump does, you're retarded. Trump is very clear about how he talks, and he says things the way he does, because he's primarily, most of his business is done outside the country with people that don't speak English. So he says very short phrases with big hand gestures and really emphasizes on things. And that's like, if you're dealing with the Chinese government, the Japanese, the Russians, whatever, it's a lot easier to have short condensed sentences that mean a lot more than a long drawn out explanation with a bunch of words that they don't even understand.
Yeah, well, you know what it is? I think, and this keeps falling back onto me, which I think is the most dominant aspect of what's destroying the proper culture incentives in this country. And I think it once again falls back on the fact that I come from a very, very competitive background. My dad was very much like that, my grandfather. But even when you think about whether it's Hollywood or professional sports, is once again, if you have a proper functioning like system as far as rules of engagement, right? The rules are laid out properly, but there is a collaborative efforts as far as what you respect each other, as far as, you know, those rules of engagements, then you can get into very, very competitive realms. Like I say, whether it's in the sports world or out in Hollywood or music, television, radio. And this is something that was very much dominant while I was growing up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, is it was very conducive to benefiting everyone, whether they were from the left or the right, like as far as ideological or political leanings, is that competition, or like even in sports, you know, like even right now, is as long as you respect each other's engagement and the other person, if they put in more effort and they win just by sheer fact of their competence, it was that show of respect and the handshake and okay, I'll go back and double my efforts and hopefully come back and be able to challenge you. And
sure. And if somebody proves you wrong, you should be thankful.
Yeah.
Like, shit. All right. Sorry, I was wrong about that. Like, you know, I was going down. I could have done something really horrible thinking that. Thank you for correcting me. You know?
Yeah. But that's the thing. Rather than being competitive with each other, but under the pretense of a proper respect as far as rules of engagement, just like people in the MMA, there's a proper. I mean, they'll beat the fuck out of each other, but when they're done, they respect because they still function in the rules, right? So it's like, okay, we're going to respect each other. Now we've gotten away from competition and more towards collaboration, or this pretense of we're all the same. And as much as that sounds good, the feels, right? It sounds good, the feels, but actually, it's those competition that usually raises and elevates each other, which is why most of our culture in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s were, you know, some hard in your face stuff, whether it's comedy or action flicks or the kind of music or movies or even the politics of the day. But they all showed each other that we could listen. We can when we step in the ring, we're going toe to toe, but then we're going to respect the rules of engagement. Now today, it's more collaborative as far as fuck the rules of engagement. Let's just show some collective endeavor as far as I'll forgo any principles. I'll forgo the rules of engagement as long as I get enough people on my team. And that's the part, like I say, now you've stacked the deck. Now you're not in a proper competition where you're raising and elevating each other. Now it's to the point where it's a zero-sum game where you're not looking at the end of the game at whoever put in the most effort or was most competent shaking hands. Now it's no, I want to run rickshaw. I want to steamroll over top of you in that environment. And in that environment, because we don't function in the era of 100 years ago where we used to use physical violence, now we're using the mind, because no one really wants to get into the world conflicts that happened in the 20th century. So now the people that are taking center stage as far as dominant, as far as this kind of conflict, are the people that are using your mind and manipulating your mind. And you know what? I've said to my wife many times in the past, as much as physical force is rough, like breaking my arm, that would suck. But I'll tell you, as an individual, I'd rather have my arm broken than someone fucking mentally manipulate my mind and distort facts and statistics to the point where I don't even know what's right from wrong anymore. Like my arm will heal in 6 weeks. I don't know what it's going to take to try to get my mind out from under this kind of indoctrination where you don't even understand what's right from wrong anymore.
Well, I think that's part of the problem, what was created by the internet. It really destroyed debate. We used to be able to sit down, because we're both from a small town. We obviously knew each other. We sit down, have a debate. You don't treat each other like shit, because you're going to have to see them at the grocery store the next day. Now, with so many people and so many troll accounts and, you know, anonymity on the on the internet, people just feel that they can throw their garbage anywhere, say whatever they want, and then don't have to worry about it. It's like living in a big city. You don't care if you cut that guy off because you're never going to see him again. But you live in a small town, you're going to see them again, so you can't treat them like shit because they're going to remember that. So I think the internet culture has definitely contributed to the devolving of debate, and it's really split up. I don't know how much time you spend on Twitter there, Bennett, but I look at, we'll say, just Justin Trudeau's tweet, and I want to look at the comments to see what's going on. Half of them I'm blocked from seeing. So they are actively stifling communication and the free flow of communication in the public square. I think it's election meddling, to be honest with you.
Oh, it is for sure. That's the hilarious part of the way these, not just the established media, but those who represent the left, like the liberals, they talk about how, how dare, the Russian trolls manipulate our elections. Meanwhile, Krista Freeland, how many times she down in fucking Venezuela or the Lima group, right? You don't think that's messing with the democracy of foreign countries? Or what about Ukraine, right? What the hell?
She just endorsed Cuba in the cleanup effort of Venezuela.
Exactly.
It's a communist country.
Yeah. I'm just sending AJ the link in case he wants to join here, or just let you know there, Derek.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I hear you. It's just so, and the crazy part is, unless Canadians are properly informed, they'll fall for that nonsense. Like, really though, you're going to try to suggest that Canada doesn't manipulate? I mean, just think about the elections as when Trump and Hillary Clinton was going up against each other. My God, every other article out of CBC News was fucking pro-Hillary, anti-Trump. Like, that was pure. They were in the back pocket of the Clinton campaign almost. But yeah, no, that's not meddling at all. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of Canadians have dual citizenship, and that can be down there voting. So I mean, come on, what the hell? Like, they're literally manipulating the election process. But then the other side of the mouth, they're saying, "Oh, it's terrible for anyone else to do it." What it is they don't like competition. That's what I found about people that usually identify as authoritarian collectivists. They just don't like competition because they know that if someone else comes along, they'll probably be able to do a much better job than they are. And they're like, "Shit, we don't like that idea." We want to be the only game in town when it comes to that shit.
Do you know if Trump has ever visited Canada?
That's a good question, actually.
I mean, during his presidency, I don't think he has. I think Canada is considered hostile territory.
You know what? That's a great question, Derek. I don't think he has, because I know. Yeah, no, I don't think he has, because I know. Well, Trudeau went down there and they played that spectacle of CBC, and they must have had that all planned where Trudeau waited half a second when Trump put his hand out. Do you know? Ooh, Trudeau. Ooh, he dissed Trump by holding his hand back, I guess, for half a second. It's like, that really showed Trump, man.
No,
yeah.
Trump is a old school handshaker. He shakes firm, and if you come at him with a limp dick sort of handshake, he's pulling it. He's going to show everybody that you're limp. That's what he does. It's a game. He led Macron around the fucking courthouse square, making him look like a fool. I mean, Trudeau was prepared for that handshake. I'll give him that much, because he did, and he neutralized the pull by hanging on to his shoulder when he shook his hand. But that is something that Trump does. I hate that too. Whenever you go in for that handshake and somebody comes at you limp or half cocked, God, that drives me nuts. Doesn't feel right. So I think I'm gonna start doing what Trump does when somebody comes at me with a limp handshake. I'm gonna show everybody, like, oh, look how fucking limp this is.
Yeah. No, I'm just sorry, Derek. I was just listening to, or just responding to AJ. Yeah, I sent it to the email, AJ.
Oh, I remember you just mentioning something about not swearing on the. What was that about? Sorry, because I was just going off.
Oh no, don't even worry about it, Derek. Because I went on a bit of a freaking tirade there yesterday, a little bit, and I thought, this ain't going to be monetized. And weirdly enough, the thing's still monetized, so whatever.
I only give people limp handshakes. That's the only thing I do. It fucks with their heads a little bit. But hey, guys, how's it going?
My mom used to have a firmer handshake than some of the guys I've met.
Yeah,
I know. Like, I hate that when you go to give a firm handshake and then the person, they're just limp wristing you, and you feel like, you're breaking their hand or something. You're like, Jesus Christ, man! Like,
see, that's where I find that kind of middle ground, right? Where I won't do the like, oh, we're just barely touching hands. I won't do that. Because I've had those guys, you've probably had them too. It's like, what the fuck you trying to do? You think, here, go ahead, squeeze a little more, buddy. Let's see what you can do.
Yeah, you're trying to break.
No, it's you got to show a firm grip to get respect.
Firm grip for sure. I say, I will definitely, when I shake someone's hand, it's firm. They know there's a hand there, but I'm not going to try to, like, I've had people who are like,
squeeze.
They're like, dude, what are you trying to do there, man? you think you're flex? Let's go.
Yeah.
Go for it.
There's a certain amount you can close your fist firmly, and then past a certain point, then you're just trying to like break their hand and like I don't know, show your impose your will on them or something. Like that.
Well, to me, what I found about people like that, and not saying that like I can't be in their mindset, but if someone goes like so hardcore, now if they're really super sound, it's like, oh, that's a little weird too. But the ones that go like really hardcore and aggressive like that's like, what is that the message you want to send me, that you're trying to like intimidate me in some way? Because probably not going to work out too well. Probably not going to work out too well with me, because I'll find some way after this handshake, but that for the next 10 minutes, I'm probably going to figure out a way to make you look like an idiot subtly, but I'll try it anyway.
Yeah, there's obviously a point where it gets to be excessive. My uncle was actually a major in the Canadian Army, and we used to do that at Christmas time because he would punch us, right? So we would come in limp to his handshake, and he'd get so fucking angry. But he taught us that, it has to be firm or else you'll get punched.
Oh, yeah. I agree. You definitely want to give a good, like if you're going to do a handshake, you got to make sure it's a full-on handshake where you're not just the tips of your fingers. Right? No, it's a good, firm handshake. But yeah, not to the point where you're like trying to show like some show of force or something, because trust me, your handshake ain't going to be nothing, in the grand scheme of things. A clock up the side of the old temple will do a whole lot more than your handshake. So I'm not going to be intimidated by that. So I don't know.
It's the limp one that scares me for sure.
Well, yeah, the limp ones are a little bit scary because that's someone that seems like they're scared of even want to represent themselves as someone that even has any competence, right? There is a weakness, I think, that does come from someone that's not even properly wanting to engage in a handshake. We're even talking.
It seems like they weren't raised with any etiquette. I mean, like, do you keep your hat on at the table too, and your elbows while you're eating? Like certain things that you just firm handshake. That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, well, it's your sword hand. You're giving each other. I think that's what initially started. You're giving each other your combat, your sword hand, or something, right? So it's kind of like, I guess if you have a weak grip, it's kind of like saying like you're gonna get in a fight. You're weak, essentially.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, I think I remember Rams Paul. He got in this whole thing on Twitter about a month or two back or something about saying that, he's like, I don't really think women and men should give handshakes because initially a handshake was between two men, and they're giving each other like, their sword hands or whatever, right? And he's like, I don't mean you shouldn't. He's like, I'll give women a handshake today or whatever, but he's like,
well, it's still technically my sword hand, to be honest with you.
Right.
It's funny. I actually have a couple swords.
Yeah, do you got them within arm's reach?
Nah,
I do.
Yeah, sweet.
This is one that I won in tournament in Buffalo.
Nice. Samurai.
Yeah, it's only a half katana, but I actually won this one in competition, so it's pretty special.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Yeah, sweet. Yeah, I've always been, I don't know about you guys, but I've always been, well, my dad got me into it when I was about 8 or 9 years old. I'm like a big collector of weapons, knives, swords, just anything that's something that interests me. I just think they're really, really cool.
Like I said, I was in a competition where I was able to win that sword. I used to train in martial arts, and I used to get trained with weapons as well. So I've got bows, sais, nunchucks, anything a Ninja Turtle would have.
The old nunchucks. that takes me back to the days of shop class, man.
Yeah, where you used to get a little chain and 2 pieces of dowel and screw those things into the top. Oh, did they ever hurt when you messed?
Actually, yeah, but I think it was in grade 8 at Joseph Brant in Scarborough, East End of Scarborough. And we did that. Well, first of all, we make, because ninja stuff was big time. This would have been, of course, in the, would have been in the early to mid 80s. So this was ninja stuff and samurai, everything. Like movies were all about that shit back then. So we're like, ooh, if you put 5 horseshoe nails together, weld them, you can make a pretty fierce star. Yeah. And whether it's like you say, screwdriver handle material, right? 2 of them with a chain, couple swivels, bam, some kick-ass nunchucks, or even aluminum on the lathe. You want to talk about some badass nunchucks, man. You get some couple nice chunks of aluminum. Oh, we used to love it. But you know what? Back then, the shop teacher, of course you do all that stuff. Today, I would imagine that if you tried to make, a ninja star in shot glass, somebody'd be calling the terrorist unit or something, right?
Oh, sure. Then you'd be an extremist of some sort, and definitely try to be labeled right wing. I heard you say that you went to middle school in Scarborough or Skyberia.
Yep, Scarborough. That's where. Well, yeah. Like I was born and raised in New Brunswick till I was 11, and when I was 12 is when my parents moved up here because they needed to go to work, and there wasn't much. This was when New Brunswick everything was going crap, so they moved up to Ontario. So 12 years old till what 20? I was 28. I grew up in Scarborough, the east end of Scarborough. Yeah.
I actually saw a cop recently put a post up saying, "This is how I get along with my peeps from Scarberia." Like, you do realize Scarberia was making fun of it, right? Like, the immigration got to be too much. It seems like a third world country there now. And the cop erased his post.
Yeah, I'm sure he wasn't thinking of it in that way because even back then when we would use that terminology, it wasn't really done in a way that was just pure meant to insult. But like you say, it was a reflection of the time. And well, that's the thing. When I was younger, people didn't take this kind of stuff so seriously. You know, it was this political correctness was not anything that was even on people's mind when I was growing up. It was just, that's why to me, it seems so out of left field when and the way things are done today, because I look at Canada today or Toronto today, it's like, why would you people be more concerned about this stuff when 20, 30 years ago we weren't, and things were actually at that particular time. I think there was actually some areas where, well, crime rates were higher, division was much more pronounced, but people figured it away, and there was that kind of resiliency. Whereas today, everyone's like snowflakes and so sensitive to hear things that shocks their sensibilities. But the things that I heard back then actually built up my strength and my character and my ability to say, yeah, the little things like that don't bother me. I'm not going to place any emphasis or effort on things that just today, if I did, I'd be, what else would I have left in my day if I just worried about every little tiny thing that anyone said that might have been politically incorrect? Like, holy shit, I can't even imagine what that would have been like. But like I say, in the 80s growing up, when things were done in a manner where people talked about a lot of crazy stuff and brought up a lot of different areas of subjects that were politically correct, but you know what? People figured out how to work through them. And I think most of the time it come out pretty decently. Now today, I think everything, because everyone's placed in these boxes or these corners or these collectives or group identity, now it really is to the point where everyone feels like they're threatened by each other based on,
well, I think we probably grew up on the same principle that I think somewhere got lost, and it's really simple. Sticks and stones will harm my bones, or so will break my bones, but words can never harm me.
Yeah.
I think we need to bring this back into practice, and somebody needs to tell Justin Trudeau. I guess when he got raised in 24 Sussex Center, they didn't go by that motto.
Yeah. like literally grade school philosophy trumps everything that's happened today, right?
I put it out on a tweet right to Justin Trudeau as well. It's like, I learned something in my childhood that I think you missed, Justin.
Yeah, it's crazy. What's up, AJ? What you doing there, buddy?
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all good,
getting
man.
some comment, or I mean, getting some text messages from somebody. I was just kind of responding to that. Sorry about that, guys.
No, I'm just joking, buddy. I'm just messing.
I actually just got a message right now from a gentleman in New Zealand. I want to do a live stream with him because he's started a channel as soon as the Christchurch thing happened, and he's explaining what's been happening in New Zealand. And he had one video that just went viral. Because he was talking about the cops going to his house. Third time the cops coming to his house to talk to him about what he posted online. That's coming to Canada soon. We're going to start getting that stuff. They've already got it in New Zealand, the UK. And so that should be a good talk.
Yeah, no, that would be awesome. Actually, especially some from New Zealand. Actually, you know what? Oh, I lost your sound there, Derek. What's going on here, buddy? Hold on.
Did you? Did you mute me?
Oh, no, I didn't actually, but I had you minimized. But now I can hear you. Okay, never mind. Yeah, no, for some reason I saw you talking, but I couldn't hear you. But you know what it was? I think it was just because it's on the other side of the stream that I was looking at. But anyways, when it comes to the New Zealand thing, I saw something earlier, but I don't know how that really. I'd have to check into it because the source I wasn't familiar with, and I always like to double check on the source before I actually put anything out that I would actually say that's truthful. But there was something about, when you're talking about that gun confiscation that the prime minister down there implemented, it seems like it didn't work out so well. What was it just a few hundred or so people, I guess, that have fallen for it? The majority of and it's good to, at least to me, it sends a pretty good message to me, because I don't know many people from New Zealand, but I would expect that most of them are at least wise enough to, like, just because the government tells you to hand in your weapons and make yourself defenseless. Oh, I hope these people aren't foolish or naive enough to go along with that stuff. And based on what I'm hearing, like I say, speculative at this point in time, but yeah, there's New Zealand people aren't stupid enough to all just, here, government, take my guns from me.
How many of those were fake guns too, as well? And people make those fake guns to get money from the government, right? Some people that go and create a bunch of.
They make a staple gun with a fucking
right.
chamber on it, and it actually works. I've seen them work before. People can make guns. Kelly Day is in the chat there, and yes, it is Rubicon that I'm talking about.
Kelly, you're nice, Kelly.
Yeah, Kelly Day was in the chat there.
Well, they can actually get less of a sentence too when they use homemade guns. Like, I was reading a story in Winnipeg here, and some of the crime is being used by these like one shooter guns that they're fabricating and shit. And because it's not like a real gun, they won't get as much time, but it's still just as deadly, right? If you get hit by one of those bullets, it's not as accurate, but
I guess now that the classification responsibility is in the hands of the RCMP, they should get on that. No staple guns.
Yeah, I get a kick out of how they're still talking about getting rid of an assault weapons ban in Canada. First of all, where the fuck is assault weapons allowed in Canada?
I only have defense rifles myself.
No, but like the insane part of the way they go on about this stuff, or like even the reclassification and stuff, it's all just so foolishness. I think I already covered this before, so I'll try to not to delve into it too far. But if you guys ever seen that Steven Crowder, he actually did it a few times, but he's done these things where he takes all of his weapons out and sets them on a table to a bunch of, like, he goes out to a university and he'll lay out like an AR-15, 30-30, a 12-gauge shotgun, a 22. Anyways, he lines a whole bunch of them all up on the table, and then he gets all these people that are university students come along and say, which ones do you think should be banned, right?
Oh, wow.
And of course, the AR-15, that looks, it looks bad, right? Meanwhile, and that's another thing too. A little bit further down on the table, he has a line of bullets and shells, right? So all these ones they don't know which one that's correlated to as far as the weapon, but which one looks scary. And with the AR, just a 223 or whatever weapon that some of them use, pretty small in comparison to a big 30. What's sorry? 50. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying 50 cal bullets.
Or even a 50 cal. But that's the thing. But the people that come along and they say, oh, no, that should be banned for sure. Right. Meanwhile, they're like the old hunting rifle, got a great big, but they don't know what bullet that
Well,
takes.
Of course. No, most people don't realize that your average hunting rifle has all the same insides as an AR-15. You take out that wooden stock and add some plastic scary parts, and all of a sudden it should be banned. I can make any gun look scary, to be honest with you.
Well, that was literally the point of why he did that, was to show with clear evidence that people are just scared based on the looks of the weapon, not the kind of power that it entails. And in reality, when you're talking about automatic or semi-automatic, I mean, automatic sounds good, but that's just spraying kind of shit, right? That's good in an environment where you just want to cause confusion and hopefully get yourself out of harm or danger. But in reality, for a weapon to be truly effective, a single shot or a semi-automatic, just pulling the trigger, individually, you can take out a whole lot more people a lot quicker than you can just pulling the trigger of a full-on semi and just spraying. That don't mean shit, man. People get this concept that just by sheer fact that you can have this repetitive motion by an automatic weapon, that's somehow going to be more efficient in some way. Not necessarily. If you got a guy that knows how to use a gun properly, such as, I'm not saying I'm an advocate or not, but such as Justin Bork, right? I don't know if you guys know about that gentleman in New Brunswick, but yeah, you don't need a full-on automatic weapon to do a whole lot of damage.
No, you just need to be fast and precise. I mean, if you look at the James Bond theory and a lot of the SAS guys, they only like to have a pistol. because it doesn't really matter. They can be faster with their pistol than a guy could be with an entire long gun coming up just to, get set up and doing what they do.
Right. But that doesn't matter though, right? Go ahead, Derek.
I was going to say, I don't think all weapons should be legal. You shouldn't be allowed to have a cannon or an anti-aircraft gun. I mean, that seems kind of weird to have. but
why not?
Yeah, you see, that's where it gets iffy. If the government can have it, why aren't you allowed to have it?
Because the whole point of being armed is to have the ability to potentially face the government when they're breaking the social contract or whatever, right? So if you don't have an ability to, fight the government, then there's practically no point of the Second Amendment in America, the point of arming yourself. And it does, you guys, you're making good points about guns and how you can kill way more people with different caliber weapons and stuff that are not being targeted at the moment. But it's because, they have to target, like if you look in America and stuff, they have to target things periodically. They have to go for the AR-15s, and you could say, hey, but everybody's being killed by handguns and stuff, right? But it's because they can't jump right to the fucking handguns. They got to go and start to say, okay, you can't have this AR, you can't have this caliber of weapon. And once they get to handguns, like it is in Canada, where they're like, okay, now we can just ban handguns because we're at that point where they can do that. But for America, they're going to want to do that. But the whole thing about should we have cannons, like the forefathers in America, like that was allowed. You were allowed to have cannons, so, and people weren't going and using cannons on each other continuously and stuff like that. Right.
Hey, self-preservation and caring about your own property, your own space, your own peeps is a much more deterrent than any government legislation. As far as you could have lots of people with a cannon or a rocket launcher, but what are the incentive that's going to ask or that's going to entice someone to want to use one? I mean, they might, get away with it in one particular time or whatever. But I mean, what would be the benefit of that if they did do so? Their chances are them and their entire family is going to have retaliation. So, like I say, most people, even when you're talking about guns and people that possess guns, most law-abiding gun owners, and I'm sure you gentlemen, well, I'm not sure about you, AJ, but I know Derek, he's a gun owner. You have a possession of a weapon that can kill people. You have a pretty good incentive not to use that, right? Now, sure, a cannon might be able to kill. Actually, I don't even think a cannon would actually be any more. I think your shotgun would do just as good a job as some fucking stupid cannon. Because a dude, if he had an old cannon, the guy would probably get out of the way before he ever get the fuse lit.
I would still love to shoot a cannon on my property. Like even if it was a wartime cannon, that'd be cool as shit.
Yeah, that'd be so awesome. Like people should be allowed to shoot cannons.
Park a trailer
on their property
and see if I can hit it.
Well, yeah, right. You got a big field. You set up some. I grew up in the country. My dad. There's so much land.
Enactment or something.
But right. There's actually people in the United States, in some states, you can go out and buy military surplus actual gear. You can have a tank sitting in your backyard.
Yeah,
now it's a little harder to get the artillery shells, right? They're not so easily or readily available. But just by sheer fact that you own a tank doesn't mean that dude's going to jump in it tomorrow and start fucking running.
If everybody had tanks, we wouldn't need a military protective. Like not everybody had tanks.
Well, that'd be the point of a militia, right? That was actually the point of the militias.
Well, what happens if a corporation decides to hide nothing but immigrants and tanks? They're a tank building corporation, and they decide
for those immigrants to come over.
And they just decide to take over. That one single private company has enough tanks, more tanks than the actual government or anybody else, and they just decide to make an oligarchy and take over. Then what do we do?
But that would require that everybody else in the entire country or whatever realize that there's this place that, I guess, because it had to start somewhere, right? So this place that has this ability to make that would mean that everyone's just sitting on the sidelines like, yeah, let's just let this person have all this monopoly of force and violence, and we're all just going to sit back there and not defend ourselves. I just don't believe that anyone in society would be willing to allow that.
Really? So, the government did it.
But you got to remember, corporations are getting these.
No, but not in the U.S. though. That's the thing.
The US was never supposed to have a standing army, actually, so they technically did get away with it.
Yeah, Well, in a way, no, I hear what you're saying. But if you knew that, no, but the way you were, the scenario you were painting, as if there was just this one corporation, right, that had this ability. Nobody would ever allow. I know who would sit back and wait. Okay, well, this company, while they're building up their arsenal, and then nobody's going to create any scenario where we can defend ourselves. I wouldn't even want to. First of all, I wouldn't live in a country that it was comprised of people that were willing to sit back on their chairs while there's this one corporation that's building up this big military that take.
Hang on a sec.
I don't want to live in that place, man.
Customers either.
It sounds like the country that we're in right now, actually.
Yeah, I know.
Right. But that's not like the free market as well, right? You know, we have the government giving subsidies, giving preferential treatment to companies to have monopolies, to do essentially whatever they want. Plus, they're bringing in immigrants at the expense of tax dollars, right? So in a free society, free market, where these people are not getting immigrants imported at our tax dollar, they have to actually pay for these people to come here. Now they're going to have to feed them. They're going to have to employ them. They're going to have to hire tons of security. Whereas right now, the government does that for them for free, completely for free. So it's going to be really hard to get complete control of a whole country, even if you are in that situation. And you wouldn't necessarily want to. Why would you want to like oppress your customers, your best customers, the people who give you money, right? You know, it's like, okay, we can take away some of these people's freedoms, but then we're going to start to lose a lot of money and, you know, alienate people.
Well,
like the world is pretty big. Like there's going to be other options right now. Like the only problem right now that we have is kind of like the government helping to create things like Google and stuff that maybe when things do fall apart, they have such a stranglehold and so much money that they're going to try to create some quasi government type thing. But in absence of the government, that the companies like Google and stuff like that probably would not exist to the extent that they have now. We would have more competitors. We would have, because they wouldn't have such a, like, you know, they have, how many governments are giving them money? Like literally each government in almost every country is like,
here's something that
owing them money.
That recently, do you guys remember the engineer from Google, James? I forget his last name. Damore, who has just won his legal battle with Google about how conservatives are being segregated against at Google. And they've opened up a cooperation agreement, which means that Google has to share all of their internal emails about the subject. So Google could be facing a pretty hefty lawsuit soon enough.
Let me just say real quick there, guys, BM here in the chat. Is it BM? Yeah, BM or BW? BM. I want Canadian Libertarian to adopt me. that's hilarious. But actually, let me just say, while you guys were talking about the whole with the military, that was
a manipulative troll.
Well, yeah, but why it was always wise, why the American Constitution and when they set it up to have militias rather than a standing army is because you guys have probably seen, and this isn't, it's not fiction. This is actually how military engagements happened in the past, but especially the British, right? They would stand in these lines and of defense and some kind of chivalry or whoever they had it, but their tactics were a failure, which is why the empire ended up, well, they couldn't even take over the American Republic, right? Even with the help of the Canadians and the British and the French. There's just, although the French was kind of on both sides in some area, in some regard, but either way, there was no way to do it. And why? Because with militias, there isn't a top down, it's a decentralized situation where your rules of engagement isn't one size fits all. Rules of engagement is okay if you rely on everyone else on the other side of the engagement to participate or use those same rules of engagement. But if someone else wants to come up with another completely different game plan as far as defensive or offensive measures, well, that's the beautiful thing about having a militia. There isn't a one size fits all approach or one, policy in how you train your soldiers or how you train people as far as defensive or offensive positions or whatever the hell I was going to say. But anyways, so the point of a militia is you can't just lob off the head of the snake like a general, and then the rest of your subordinates don't know what to do because they haven't been placed and given that kind of position or that authority to know, well, how do I step up and take the place of the general? Now, there's been lieutenants and other areas or colonels and others. Actually, colonels would be higher, I guess, than general. But there'd be lots of areas where you'd have people that could step into place. But with a militia, you have a multi-pronged approach where you can defend yourself without just having to use one methodology as far as defense. So the founding fathers were wise as far as making sure that there wasn't a way to destroy your ability to defend your country, because militias allowed, like I say, the ability to a whole bunch of different people to come up and construct new ways. So when the British were lining and forming their lines, well, the Americans were like, well, we don't necessarily have to engage in that same kind of manner. This really, at the end of the day, a war is about winning. You know, I mean, chivalry and showing solidarity with other people's particular practices, okay, but once again, that's not what's going to win the war. What's going to win the war is having the best practice and approach as far as defeating the enemy. So a militia is actually much easier, and because if it's decentralized, there's no way for a foreign invading country or military to take over, because once again, in Venezuela or all these countries, you see how this transition will take place in Venezuela. Eventually, you'll get that figurehead that will get a few of their top soldiers or their top generals to align. And once you've got a few of your top generals on board with your political processes, now you've got all the subordinates that are willing to go along with that, because they've been taught to think, well, I have to do whatever my general tells me. Whereas in a militia, no, if your general sells out to the other side or sells you up the river, the militia guy is not going to necessarily do that. So you're still going to have that direct and imminent threat, which is, once again, even what the Japanese recognize that with the militia, even and this is in the 1940s, is there's 300 million guns in the United States, and you might be able to go against the military, but those 300 million guns and those whatever 100 and some million Americans at the time, they're not going to just rest and rely on what their generals tell them to do. They're going to defend their country, their backyard, and their particular piece of property. And the rules of engagement aren't going to be so easily where we'll be able to come up with a game plan that will be able to destroy it. So I think that's actually the best approach for any country, is not necessarily having a standing military, but having people that have the competence and the ability. Well, I mean, Switzerland, the one place in all of Europe that was never invaded, never had to align, First World War, Second World War, they never had to align with any particular ally or any of the axis of evil or any of that shit. But they said, if you come mess with our country, we're all here and ready, willing to defend ourselves. And because we all have the ability and competence to take care of ourselves, and we're a decentralized structure, no one ever tried to. So I think that's actually a real world example of how well that stuff works.
I actually think that I would like to go back to mandatory service for people to learn about patriotism and to have an educated constituency enough that they could be self-responsible to have standing militias. And I got to give a shout out to Stan in the chat there, talking about he used to go to Camp Ipperwash and play around in the dunes long before Stony Point band did take over. And I went to Ipperwash as well. Those sand dunes were awesome. We actually got caught out in PT when it started raining, and they left us out there by ourselves with no sergeant or anything for a while. So we actually started a competition to see how far we could slide in the mud. Oh, the punishment for that was horrible. We just screwed our uniform so bad.
You know what? I'm not a big fan of the mandatory service, tell you the truth, because I don't believe in mandatory anything. But I will say, one part I will agree with you, though, is like me, as a Canadian, I will never join the military, nor would I respect any mandatory service. But what I would do is, if there is some foreign invader or even someone domestically, it's trying to take, which is what I do. Right now, I'll use the words. But if there's violence directed at me or the people in my community, I'll be the first one to step up the plate to defend myself and those in my community. But I don't need anyone to tell me that I have to. I'll do it out of sheer necessity of that's what I require.
So just draft you into Vietnam, right?
No, but I think maybe we're overlooking the term mandatory service. I mean, Russia teaches its students in school how to use a gun. And when I say mandatory service, I mean, there's certain things that we should learn as a population that should be mandatory.
Oh, yeah. Like, I agree.
You don't even let people have guns to begin with, barely, or make it really hard. So it's like we probably would be learning about guns and learning how to use them a lot more. We wouldn't even really need the mandatory thing. We didn't have a mandatory like go to gun school 50, 60 or so years ago when a lot of people did know how to use guns, did have guns and all this other stuff. So like, I understand what you're saying. It's like, yeah, it's good. But same with the mandatory service. It's like, how many wars have people been sent to and gotten butchered, and millions of people have died for nothing?
And again, that comes back to an educated constituency and educating people on how to vote and who to vote in your leaders. I mean, if you have a population you can trust, you can trust your leader, then you can trust everybody to be going into military service and trust that your leaders are not going to send you somewhere that you're going to regret later.
Right.
Yeah, but I definitely agree. We should have a good, healthy culture of people that have the confidence and the ability to defend themselves and be willing to, like you say, to defend not just themselves, but people in their community from any threat. So that is very important. That says, actually, if we had a healthy society of people like that, we wouldn't need this constant expansion of police or military, but or this constant surveillance state. Is if we were more back to what it was supposed to be, as far as if you're a member of a community. Like, I'm not even a fan of having a state, but because I recognize Canada is a state, we are part of a state and we have our own particular way we're supposed to do things as far as, comparison to other states. Is if we're going to have such thing as a state, then yes, the people within the confines of a particular state have to have the confidence and the ability to defend themselves against foreign or domestic actors or influences that are trying to oppress you in some way. And that to me is very important, Derek. That's the area where I could not agree more. And this is the area where me and conservatives are completely on board, is you have to have people that have the confidence and the ability to defend themselves from people that are trying to impose their will, their edicts or mandates on them. And like I say, and that happens through domestic politicians or people that try to represent the ruling class or foreign threats. Or terrorists or such. Is we need a healthy culture of people that have that confidence. And when I was growing up, the weird part that drives me crazy today is when I was growing up, you could like a 9 or 10-year-old kid could get his first BB gun and nobody even thought anything about, I mean, maybe your mom, right? Might have been your mom. God love your mom and stuff. It's like, well, you want to make
22 is practically a BB gun, right? So
yeah, I mean, a little different, but I mean, either way, even then it was like, let's just make sure he's safe. But usually a dad or your granddad or your uncle, or whoever got it, they were also responsible enough. They didn't just hand it to you and say, okay, here, you just go do your thing. There was a particular culture where you respected the fact that you're talking about a firearms. And then where I grew up in New Brunswick, it was such a healthy culture that even people that, maybe in some areas of life might be irresponsible when it's not talking about weapons, but when it comes a weapon or a gun, they were very, very responsible in making sure that anyone, if they were giving the gun to the kids, like, okay, we're going to teach you not just how to use it, but how to store it, how to make sure that you don't, if it's loaded, you keep your hands in particular areas. You don't, put your finger anywhere near the trigger. You want to make sure it's either pointing down or facing upward. You don't want it face. That was just as normal as breathing when I was growing up. And no one, as far as I know, and you guys probably recognize this yourself if you grew up in any areas like that, and I'm sure Derek might have. I never actually heard anyone that there was one dude that I remember, but this was in a hunting incident. So it wasn't even just someone showing their kids how to use a gun. There was one dude that I remember, and it was in the papers, plastered all over. It was a hunting incident, and the guy gets shot by accident. But other than that, I never heard of one incident when I was a kid. And trust me, it was pretty easy to learn this stuff because you know how gossip travels. But no one ever had this problem where these kids just went out and started recklessly shooting up people. It's because there was a proper, healthy culture and respect.
Right.
The respect for your weapons was so important that it was something that was the culture. Nowadays, there isn't that healthy respect because we're taught to be fearful of weapons. But no, you shouldn't be fearful of weapons because weapons do exist. But what you should teach people is to have a healthy respect for weapons and to get them in a good state of mind where they know that weapon is something that's it's a last resort thing, and only if there's a direct and imminent threat to your life, or if you're going to use it for hunting or something.
Well, that culture of safety with guns still permeates in the rural areas. It's only when you get into the big metropolises that they seem to lose. I mean, even today they're talking about lowering the voting age, but yet we're still I don't know. There's a conflict of interest. They want to take the ability to drive and take care of yourself and be able to travel yourself anywhere you want out of your hands. They want to make it complete free public transportation. I mean, one of the biggest freedoms we could have was being able to drive, defend ourselves. I mean, who was it recently? There was a case, I don't know if it was in the States or it was in Canada. I think it was Canada, where somebody killed somebody during a home invasion. As far as I'm concerned, if you're invading into somebody's home, you have the intent to kill somebody or cause malicious harm. And I think we should have that self-defense law. That should be fine.
Yeah. You know, you never know what, like I've seen that in like America, some cases and stuff too. And people are like, well, the kid, he broke in, but you didn't need to shoot him. You know, it's like some old 90-year-old lady and like two 20-year-old dudes. But like, you know what? There have been instances where like that, the people get beat and murdered and killed and you don't know. So yeah, if you enter somebody's property trying to break in and all that stuff, you get what you deserve, right?
Yeah.
And that's just the gist of the matter, right?
Yeah, well, I agree. And you know what? That's one of those areas where I can't even form a proper opinion on that, because it would base on the particular circumstances, right? So some areas where if you have a clear line of sight, the person is no direct or immediate threat to you per se, maybe take out a kneecap or something. What I do recognize that there might be situations where someone might say there was an excess of force used, and that, like I say, but that's why it's important to deal with every case on a case-by-case basis. But there are also those scenarios like you're even alluding to is, let's say it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Somebody's standing at the edge of your bed and all you see is this fucking shiny object come at you and someone in a ski mask, and you don't know if your life is directly threatened at that particular moment, but you know that there's someone in your home that they shouldn't be, and your life, you don't know what's going to happen. You want to err on the side of caution and shoot first and ask questions later, right? Like, that's just being smart. I mean, so it still should come down to each situation, but yeah, to paint people that have shot someone that's a home invader and say that, oh, you shouldn't have used that kind of force. Well, I don't know. What was the situation?
I think it's no matter what, you can't make any exceptions, because then they'll always find, like, they'll be able to, eventually break it down. It's like, no. You step into my home and with the intent of stealing shit, like, you're going to get fucking shot, right? And when you make exceptions, people will exploit those exceptions. Like, oh, well, if they're 16, then you can't do it. Okay, then these criminals are going to get a bunch of 16-year-olds to go in and break into your house.
Yeah.
And then when something happens,
like they're going to ask them for ID before shooting them. And this is where I can actually recommend everybody for home defense is get a 22, because if that person's standing at the end of your bed and you've got like a 357 Magnum and you go to shoot it in your bedroom, you're not going to be able to hear shit. The muzzle flash going off, you're not going to be able to see shit, and you're going to have a bunch of drywall to go and fix afterwards. So just get a 22. It'll scare them away and it'll do the job.
Yeah, that's kind of the line that I would draw for myself personally. But once again, I definitely agree with AJ that we should have the ability. I love the quote you did, AJ. Better to be judged by 6 and carried by 12. Good one, buddy. But yeah, no, but seriously, no, I get where you're going with that. But once again, I think even my own, now that's just me personally, in a particular situation, is I don't think I would necessarily want to like shoot to death. Like I say, if there was a definite imminent threat to my life and that was the only chance or opportunity that I had, yes, for sure, I'm complete. But there are scenarios where I think I could probably figure out where I don't necessarily, might not have to take the person out entirely. So like I say, that's where I think you should be open to interpretation, but it should be, at least the premise should be enshrined within our law that, of course, the onus is on the criminal, right? So this presumption that a homeowner is somehow guilty of some crime because maybe they reacted in some manner that maybe you might not have. Well, that's subjective in nature. But once again, when your life is threatened in the middle of the night or some way, it's easy to sit back after the fact and say, oh, I could have handled it differently. But how do you really know that? Until you've been placed in that position, it's really difficult to say so. But I still think it would be healthy as far as having a culture, and I think most people would be anyways, is just do escalate the kind of violence that's necessary to protect your family, rather than just go on spray mode and make sure.
I agree.
Right. But I agree. But I definitely agree
that, like, when it comes to with a prosecution, like, I don't think people, when you give them the ability to necessarily do that, they'll just be gunning down everybody in their home. People naturally don't want to kill other humans.
Yeah.
It's a traumatic fucking thing. So people will, restrict themselves and stuff naturally, but there's always those fucking tricky cases where, yeah, this guy's breaking into the home and then somehow this homeowner gets held accountable. And then it gets really fuzzy between, hey, do you have the right to defend yourself? Do you not have the right? Like, if you're out on the street, that's a little bit different. But when it's in the home, that's, in my opinion, it's like you're crossing a line, right?
Yeah.
And like, there's that thing with, I don't know if anybody knows Andy Worski, right? He pulled out a gun and he was like in America, and like these guys were at first following him, but they could have walked away. But then they're like, they pull out the gun and they're like, shoot, 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 aim, aim, aim. And they started like kind of following the guys, and they started leaving, but they started following them like with the gun. And they're like, but it's self-defense, stand your ground laws. They're like, no, okay, you can't follow people with a gun and say like, go, stay back, you know, like out in the public, you know, but in the home, I think that's a little bit different, right? It's your sanctity, your safe place. And if people that don't have, if you say you're not allowed to come in, they come in, they break in. It's like, hey man, fuck off. You get what you get. And I don't say people should just shoot you, but if it happens, yeah, you shouldn't have been in their place, you know?
But, you know, even as we're talking about this stuff, I just keep thinking time and time again, which is why it's so important, why we should never base everything that we decide or determine as far as how we deal with each other in these situations. It's easy to make a law that has that one size fits all approach, which, you know, I would like to have a law that errs on the side of defending the homeowner and say that you should have the ability to defend yourself if someone is encroaching on your property. And I would agree with that. The problem is there's scenarios. Here's the part why it's so important, which is why even under English or British common law, it's so important to have, you know, first of all, the presumption of innocence and to go through a court process where all the facts are laid out towards, you know, 12 of your peers or such, so that all the evidence can be brought to light so you can try to decipher and determine what was properly done. This is where morals and ethics plays in a pivotal role in contrast to just laws. Is, let's say some person was running from, and this is another scenario, and I'm not going to paint one of those things. It's like, well, that would never happen. I'll paint a real scenario where it actually does happen. Someone ends up running through your backyard because they're trying to flee. Like some woman runs through your backyard. She's trying to flee a rapist or whatever. And someone,
or just teenagers screwing around, like,
right,
or something weird, right?
Right, exactly. So this is one of those areas where we can't just say with an easy, you know, objective statement that homeowners should just have the ability to shoot anyone on site that infringes on the property. It sounds good in theory, and most of the time I'd say most people would be responsible and not do that. But that's where the laws is not what I would require to be the judgment or the basis of that homeowner's decision. I would really hope that homeowner has some basis of morality and a good judge of character, and be able to place themselves in a position where they're thinking about this stuff, even if it's only for a half a second. At least take that forethought to think about what's happening. Unless, like I say, the only exception that I would say is if someone is directly threatening you per se, right here and now, where it's either you survive or you don't. In that area, that's one thing I'll say, where yes, you should always make sure that you're doing whatever you can to defend yourself against someone that has that immediate threat to you. But it doesn't mean that just because someone has stepped foot on your property, there should never be anything enshrined in law where there's a technicality where if someone steps a foot in your property, you automatically have the ability to just gun them down, right? I don't think that would be very good. But I get where we're all going with this, and I think we're pretty much all on board with this.
Well, no, not like somebody walks across your grass or something, and they're like, you know?
Right. And I'm not even saying that you were alluding to that, AJ. All I'm trying to do is just for anyone that's watching these videos, so that they understand kind of the principles.
Right. Yeah.
Taken here is that
warning shots definitely necessary.
Yeah, exactly. And
that'd be funny. It's like somebody just like takes his foot on your grass, and just some old guy steps out. Just,
how dare you?
He's just bringing you your mail.
Hey, that's my property.
Yeah, he's just trying to bring you your daily mail, and you blast him. Well, I guess that's why mailboxes were at the end of your property and not on your property.
Hey, if Canadian Libertarian was my father, this BM character guy or girl, I'm not sure because it's BM. But if Canadian Libertarian was my father, I bet I could grow a beard like Rance Derrick.
I'm going to assume that with the Raptor symbol as his logo, BM stands for black man.
Oh, that could very well be. Could be.
Or I'm racist.
It's funny. No, but
He's a Jew.
If Libertarian was my father, I bet I could grow a beard like Rance Derrick. But actually, you'd probably grow a beard like Rance Derrick even more if Derrick was your dad.
Need testosterone to grow.
I don't even think I could grow a beard like Derrick's, to tell you the truth. Mine would be one of those
This might
vaguely loose ones. Sorry. Go ahead.
This may have to come off this summer. It's starting to get pretty itchy. And I'm gonna want some company this summer, so I might have to go back to the baby face.
Yeah, I actually remember when you first started making your videos, you didn't have nearly as much of that facial hair, did you?
No, nothing. I was the baby face. I looked a lot. The YouTube channel has aged me quite a bit.
Yeah. Getting into public discourse and talk about politics, man. Look at every time someone goes into politics, right? 4 years later, 2 terms later, they're like, they started out, didn't have one gray hair. 2 terms later, and all of a sudden they're just pure white.
That's the truth. That
all that money they're going to make after they leave office just really creates so much anxiety for them. It's like Obama just became like a millionaire, multi-millionaire.
That's not wild. It's not wild. All you have to do is get yourself in some one of these positions of so-called authority, and then everything you say after that comes with monetary fucking compensation. Every word's like, hey, this one's worth $10. Right? What the hell? How did that happen? Right? Oh no, what it is what they can give you as far as favor, because they still got lots of connections back over yonder there in the old government. That's what that comes down to. Is don't worry, I'm out of power, but hey, I know a couple people.
Yeah, the BM just fired back at me there in the comments. He's a black man from the waist down. The rest of him is Jewish. All right.
Right on. That's good stuff. I see that's the one there. Yeah.
So what else is going on in the news there, guys?
I was just, like I say, if you want, I was just, when we were earlier touching down, I don't know if you've seen the picture that they posted on that New York Times article. I still have it up here. So basically, these are the people that they're saying, I guess, are like a representation of the scary people, right? And it's hilarious because you got Dave Rubin, right? Was he a gay classical liberal?
Gay Jewish classical liberal.
Gay Jewish classical liberal. Then you got Alex Jones, a kind of a sensationalized Texas guy that talks about a lot of conspiratorial stuff, but he's pretty much, as far as I know, I haven't seen him pick up arms and go take down anyone. So he's just someone that, like I say, it's hilarious. Alex Jones, to me, as far as today, he's no different than George Noria on Coast to Coast Radio, right? I don't hear anyone try to take down George Norrie. What's going on? They come up with lots of ideas and theories in regards to things, and it's just something that you get to listen to. Either you adopt and accept it, or you reject it. Why is that a terrible thing? Then you got,
it would be a good strategy by maybe the Toronto Sun to put up people like Kevin Metcalf and Bernie Farber and show all these guys that have ties to the Southern Poverty Law Center and Anti-Hate Canada. Maybe why not sensationalize them on the front page of the Sun? Just give me a second there, guys. I got to run outside for 1 second. I'm sure you guys can.
Yeah. No, do your thing there. And the hilarious part, then you also got down here in the bottom corner, you got Ben Shapiro, once again, a conservative Jewish guy. And beside him is T-Mott. I don't know if you know who AJ, do you know who T-Mott is? His name's Derek Grayson. How I got to know him, and we're friends on Facebook. We have been for a long time, actually, since the Ron Paul run for political party in the U.S. He's a black guy. He's a preacher down, I believe he's out of Georgia. And it's hilarious that they're painting him. Like I say, he's a black man, and he'd be considered a Christian, conservative, although I think he would actually, if you ask him, he'd say he's more libertarian. It's funny.
That African guy, like
he's fucking cool. He used to do
I know him actually.
T-Mott was the name he used to go by, T-Mott.
Right.
But now he's being painted into being, I guess, one of these alt-righters or whatever. Then of course you got Lawrence Southern, you got Stephen Molyneux, of course. You got
DeFranco, if you know who that is. And that guy's like,
Philip DeFranco. That's hilarious because my son, like, I watch a couple of his stuff, and he's one of those guys that does a lot of jump cuts to try to. I do that even in my video to cut out dead spots and stuff.
That guy's a cuck.
But either way, yeah, but no, but he would be considered, as far as I'm concerned, I'd like that guy's more of a lefty than anyone, right?
Oh yeah.
As far as any of the videos I've ever watched him, but yeah, now he's being painted as an alt-righter. It's like, this is
Right.
the serious thing. Like, how are you tying Philip DeFranco?
Well, look at like Vox Day, or I mean the Vox News. They're owned by like I think Comcast or some other thing. Like a lot of this, in my opinion, has to do with just competition, right? What's his name? You know, that's why I made a video today about Philly D actually, and
Oh, you did?
laughing about how he was complaining about being associated with the alt-right, because it's like, man, we were telling you this was going to happen for quite a while now. We were saying that, hey, it's going to be these people that they're going to try to smear and censor, and then they're going to come for you. But what he did when Alex Jones, all these other people got censored, he just goes and justified it, right? So now that he's being labeled and labeled as that, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Good, you deserve that. And also, like, you know, all this guy cares about is the money. But like the original point was that these people, like Philip DeFranco, he has a large subscriber base. He has a lot of people that follow him, and that's eyeballs that the New York Times or other social media companies this company want them to see instead of looking at his content, right? So it was just inevitable that they were going to go down the line and go for people like him and lump him up with, you know, root YouTube.
Oh, I lost you there. What happened here? What's going on? Oh, you cutting out on us there a little bit there, AJ, buddy.
Birds that are.
Okay, I think you're back now. You were cutting out just a little bit there, AJ.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. There's my thing's kind of slowing down here on my end.
It was only just for a real short time frame, but yeah, no, I'm with you there. I totally agree. But the part that I find is hilarious, if you look right down in the middle of this picture, they got Milton Friedman. Now, this guy was a monetarist. He was actually, I don't know if you know much about economics. I love studying economics. I'm a big fan of it. Most people don't even, most of the videos I put out there, that's economics, which is a field that I'm really, really good at. It's like, but nobody cares about that, so I usually don't do it much anymore. But Milton Friedman is a Nobel Prize winning economist. He would be considered a monetarist, actually. He actually was kind of a middle ground kind of a guy. He was more free market for sure, but he still believed in government role as far as central planning policy, as far as currency stuff. But the guy he was a Nobel Prize winning economist, and they got him and Alex Jones. What? Say what? How are they trying to tie that stuff? That's like, that reminds me of that. Remember that stupid thing? What was that Rebecca Lewis or whatever, that thing where they had all this graph with all the YouTubers and how they're all influencers, and like, I love how they're trying to tie all these people. Now, what it is what I see as a representation of this picture is, no, these are people on the YouTube platform that have a lot of influence as far as affecting the culture, but they're all different people from variant backgrounds. To me, this is the best example you could ever put forth, is why people that are standing for rights, freedoms, and liberty today are coming at it from all different areas of the spectrum. And I'm glad to see that the New York Times, they're trying to put this as if it's negative. But if you're someone that's thinking about it objectively or critically at all, it's like, wait a minute, these people all come from very, very different backgrounds and histories or political leanings, and they all seem to have one thing in common. And what is that? Oh, they want to defend your rights, freedoms, and liberties. So why is that a bad thing, right?
Well, exactly, right. And that's what I've been saying in a couple of my other videos for a while now, is that they're trying to demonize basic conservatism, like just basic shit, like, you know, Milton Friedman. He's not, I wouldn't say he's basic, right? But like, you know, like he's more free oriented than most actual conservatives. But they're trying to lump in people like Ben Shapiro, all these other people that you know, don't cross the line, that aren't really too extreme or whatever, because they don't even like that, because they know if once you believe in freedom of speech and you believe in the idea of freedom of speech, then that will lead you to believe in other things, to be open to, you know, other ideas that are on the right. So they want to stifle that completely. They want you to believe in hate speech. They don't want you to look at, and they don't want you to look at Milton Friedman and understand that an economy can run without a bunch of control from the government, and like the free market can, take can fulfill some needs instead of like, the state. They don't even want that type of message getting out, because anything like that will eventually have an effect on their power base, because they want you to believe that you need the government to build the roads, to censor the social media from the hate speech, to do whatever, and take care of you, right? They don't want you to be independent in any way whatsoever. So that's why they're going to come after these basic conservatives. And that's why I was telling them, like, hey, guess what? You're going to be labeled a white supremacist. You're going to be labeled far right when they're done with the actual far right people on YouTube. So, stop being quiet. Stop being, hopefully they don't come for me next. I'll just keep my head low. It's like, now we see what they're doing. But hey, you were warned. You were warned, and you should have came out and defended people earlier, but you're too afraid of guilt by association. Oh, but I don't want to defend the Nazi, because then they'll call me a Nazi. Well, they're doing it anyways.
Well, what some of the people on the left don't realize is that, yeah, all those people that were in that New York Times picture, sure, you don't agree with their ideas, but even if you don't agree with their ideas, what do you expect is going to happen? Free speech and the internet and bad ideas are like mold. If you allow them out into the light to be discussed, they can be squashed and killed right there and then. But if you send them off to a dark, deep corner of the basement, it's going to grow. And those ideas are going to fester and keep getting bigger to places that don't expose what kind of a bad idea they are. So all those people on the front of the New York Times, for the most part, are pretty level-headed people. They expose all of the bad things that are happening in society. That's why they're being taken off. No other reason. I mean, even Philip DeFranco, he's not right.
No.
He does stand up against the censoring of people, though. So that's exactly right.
Occasionally, some people.
Well, he does stand behind the idea of free speech and having, I've never seen him stand up for someone personally, but he does stand up for the idea of free speech.
Right. Well, I wouldn't say he does if he picks and chooses who he's going to defend, kind of like, and say like, well, Alex Jones did push conspiracy, so he does deserve, and blah, 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 whatever. Right. But I think he's better. And yeah, he's not as brainwashed as the actual leftist media that is out there.
Technically could have been charged for the same reason that those people were charged in the 50s when they played that stuff over the radio about there being an alien invasion, War of the Worlds. They were doing a commercial for War of the Worlds, and they caused a public, not necessarily a public disturbance, but they freaked everybody out. So there are laws already in place to handle that sort of stuff. There's no reason to kick him off a platform.
Yeah, but right. And he said that years ago, and then it started becoming an issue again or whatever. They're like, oh, but he said it was fake. It's like, how many things are said that are fake, or how many conspiracy theories are out there, but all of a sudden they just choose to go for Alex Jones and all this stuff. You can go for so many different things like that. But whatever, I think people should have the right to be wrong and shit, right? Like, I don't know. Look at what's his name, Kevin J. Johnston, right? He's being sued for $2.5 million because of a video he didn't even release or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Basically. Well, it's not categorized properly. I guess the reason he was sued was because he apparently or allegedly cost the owner of Paramount Fine Foods a franchise contract. So he's trying to compensate his losses from Kevin stopping that from happening. I mean, this isn't how a society is supposed to work. You don't go and shit on somebody and sue them because of loss of revenue. You stand up and prove your side is better. I mean, that's the whole point of being able to have free speech and open platforms, isn't it? If you actually believe that what he was saying is not true, then rebuttal it.
Right. Exactly.
And yet you are right about his documentary. That documentary is coming out no matter what. You think that this lawsuit was going to stop him? Somebody else can just upload it. I mean, somebody else can upload it wherever they want. You can upload it from Costa Rica.
He's
Well, there's
already
no-
been charged with it, so I guess he can't be charged again. I don't know how that would work.
I'm sure he could get fined for something. I mean, but he spent a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of travel to get this done. So,
right.
yeah, I can't
Definitely.
wait to see it. I hope he actually has I was talking to some of the guys that were helping him with the editing last night, Rick and Derek from the Noble Savages. I don't know if you guys are aware who they are.
No.
Do you remember when Justin Trudeau was heckled at City Hall with a megaphone, him and John Tory?
No.
Oh, he was given a press conference and he actually couldn't get through the speech because the megaphone from the balcony was a lot louder, and that's all you could hear during the entire speech. So it was well done by those guys. That's who they were, the Noble Savages. They did that, and they're a big part of the Yellow Vest process. But as soon as they're done, I think it's them. I can't say for sure. So as soon as they're done allegedly finishing this documentary, it's going to be posted everywhere.
It's a pretty problematic name. Noble Savages. Is that like a dig at Aboriginal people or something?
Well, one of them is Aboriginal, so
Oh, even worse.
he can be as noble as he wants, or as savage as he wants.
Right. They'll have the other guy. Was the other guy white or something?
I think the other guy's white. Really don't care so long as they stand up for the right principles, right?
Oh yeah, I was just kidding. Like, it's like, SJWs nowadays. Savages. Oh, what do you mean?
Oh my goodness, you called me a savage?
Right.
Hey guys, I just wanted to mention that while you guys were talking there, in case you're wondering where I was, I just had to go to the can there real quick. But she hasn't answered yet. But if Kelly decides she wants to jump in the stream, you guys don't mind, right?
I think she said something in the chat about she's gonna lay down or something.
Okay, right on. Yeah, I just knew she was in there, so I just wanted. Okay, I see it there now. Okay, yeah.
The stream is masculine perfection, she said. So, thank you, Kelly.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure to put it there because she's always invited. I like Kelly. She's awesome stuff.
Yep,
yeah.
I can't wait to see her run for the area that she's running for in Saskatchewan for the PPC.
Yeah,
she had an excellent stream on her channel the other day. If everybody should go and check it out with the apostate prostate. No, that's not right.
Apostate.
Yeah, I saw that. There's like more than 100 people live watching that. Like 130, I think I saw that when it was live.
It was up there for one of her live streams. But what? Give me the guy's proper name though. Something apostate.
I don't remember.
Apostate prophet. I think that's what something like that. Kelly will come in, I'm sure, and tell us.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it all.
Way off, eh? I totally brutalized his name, the apostate prostate.
Right.
I wish I could help you out there, but I'm not even familiar with the apostate prostate.
Shit. No, that's not going to go away, is it?
You ruined it. You ruined it.
It's all good.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to these social media influencers to come out. They're supposed to be like Olympic athletes and musicians, and they're just going to be program nobodies, but guaranteed the comment sections will be shut down. The like to dislike ratios will be fucking blown out of the water.
Hey, listen, let me ask you guys. I know myself because I pay attention to my own shit, obviously, more than anyone else. But now there's a couple variables involved, which is why, like, damn, I don't know what it is. But for the last month at least, I don't know if you guys have experienced the same thing, but damn, my views have fucking dropped off. And I get this weird thing, and I keep sending it to YouTube and hoping they'll change it. And actually, my son told me you got to get a hold of them on Twitter. So now I'm on this @Team YouTube on Twitter, and I've sent them to him 3 times now. I got the first response, but the 2 subsequent times I have gotten no reply back. But I keep getting these goddamn spams. Every video I upload, it only takes the first little bit for I'm first starting to get my notifications. And then as soon as I open it up, it's like, where you get that review where normally you can approve someone's, it'll say spam or help in review. You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll get these things and it'll say spam or held in review, but there's nothing that, like, you can see it in the lines and it'll say like the spam folder. It starts out low. Obviously, as soon as I upload the video, it might only be 3, let's say. But by the end of the day, there's like 30, 40, 50. Fuck, I've had in like a day and a half, 90 spamming, but it's not like I don't even have the option when I go into it where I can see something.
Yeah. I've seen that too.
Yeah, and I can't even approve it.
150.
Because what I do, I get sometimes where YouTube holds stuff in spam, but it's like, that seems normal stuff. I'll approve that. Fuck yeah. And the only time I won't ever approve something where it's someone if they're like kill people or like stupid shit like that. It's like, no, I don't want to prove that crap. I don't want that kind of people on my channel. It's not even that I'm trying to suppress people, but I realize that YouTube, if I allow too much of that stuff, they'll probably punish me. And I don't even want to silence people. Even as someone that says stupid shit like that, I'd rather like, oh, they're just words. Go spew your crap. But
I actually get the same thing. But what happens is I'll be going to bed, and let's say it was a good day, and I got 1,200. Like I uploaded, I pay attention to what I get over 24 hours to see how well it's doing. And usually within a good video in 10 hours gets 1,200 views. I'll go to bed. When I wake up, it'll say 1,400. And then by the time I get to work, settled in, by my first break, it's back down to 12. I think that's because I get up at 4:30, and they wouldn't be changing the algorithms or however they do it 3 hours behind in LA.
Well, I mean, between the spam issue plus the views, plus I've had, and I shared a whole one so that I invited everyone, go ahead and scrutinize the video that I actually put up there. I didn't even swear, which is hard for me, right? I swear a lot. So I was like, now that I've monetized my channel, it's like, okay, Bennett, you gotta restrict yourself on the using the swear word, because you know they're gonna. And I even tried to be a good little boy. It's like, here I'm trying to do good, YouTube, and they fucking demonetized my video. I was like, why? The only thing that I've ever constructed and other people that have offered their feedback is I used bully in the headline because what it was. But the crazy part is, it was me defending social media platforms because you know how the government's trying to do, the Canadian government, they were trying to run like the Facebook execs and rake them over the coals and have their big inquisition kind of thing, right? And I was like, as much as I realize that Facebook and some of these platforms, they do some stuff that I don't necessarily like, hey, at least I still can enter into these in contracts voluntarily. Like, so I'll accept whatever the shit that comes with it. So I was defending the social media platforms and saying that it's those in government that are trying to bully them. But yeah, my channel or that video was demonetized. So I did the normal where you review it, get them to review it. And it still came back after manual review. It's still not suitable for advertising. Like, what? You mean I'm defending you fuckers? And that's not, where does that, I don't know. To me, that just seemed really strange. Plus my views. Now I will admit, historically, my videos are like, I'm like a yo-yo. Like I say, if it's economic stuff, my views are always way down. And I've just come to accept that I guess most people just don't care about economics. So I'm okay with that. But at least stuff that I realized that was, you know, you get to know what the things that you think, okay, this should do good. But ever since this whole thing within the last month has been happening, all the videos I think, okay, this should do good, none of them are good. I can barely even get 1,000 views anymore on a video. And that used to be not a difficult task. But for some reason, and like I say, I don't like to get into conspiracy crap and say that someone's, but there's something weird that has definitely happened in the last month or month and a half. And YouTube has come out and said they have changed things where now they are trying to, you know, I don't know, reduce, I guess what they call misinformation. I don't know what they're doing, but at the very least, they've never shut me down. I've never had a strike. I've never had anything other than the fact I've seen these things that have happened that have definitely changed. Maybe it's in the recommendation. There must be, because that's the other thing with the algorithm is, and you guys know this, only like, I think on my channel, there's about 700, between 500 and 700 people that have done all of that stuff where they've not just clicked the bell, but they've also double clicked the bell. So they're getting all the immediate notifications. Like I say, there's 500 or 700 Canadians for sure that see every one of my videos. And I'm always guaranteed that I'm always going to get that. But then I think a lot of the other views come from recommended videos, right? So when it shows up in the feed somewhere, I think why my views seem to be lowering out, maybe it's that recommended part, because it still looks like I'm still getting that core audience that watch my video every time.
Yeah, you won't come up in the recommended section anymore. No right wings come up in the recommended section anymore at all. I always get copyright strikes because I do it on purpose now. I don't even care. I'm not making money off this shit. So I throw in background music that'll guarantee me being a copyright strike just to see if it could actually get some more distance and whatnot. But what difference does it make if swearing is in your platform or not? They shouldn't say, oh, this isn't suitable for some advertisers. They should just put an R rating on it and say this is more suitable for these advertisers. Like there's gun companies that want to advertise. There's in the new age Canada, there's drug companies that want to advertise. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
No, you actually said the right thing, because that's the thing. And if because you've probably come across this yourself, it says not suitable for all advertisers. But why is that the only option you're giving me? Are you telling me I'm not suitable for any of them? Why is the only option you give me is whether my video is suitable for all advertisers? I'll never probably have too many, although I will admit most of my videos are getting monetized. I'm just not getting any money because there's no views, but apparently they're monetized. But it's like, why would it matter if it's suitable for all advertisers? It really doesn't matter as long as it's suitable for some. That's the weird part. Why the hell do I got to appeal to all advertisers? That seems very, very weird as far as the parameters, the way they've set it up. But like I say, I'm going to keep doing my thing. And just like you, Derek, it was hard for me. I was very hesitant even to monetize it because for the first, 3.5 years since I've been doing these videos, I've never monetized anything. And the only reason why I've even started now is because at some point in time, I'd like to get out of working as a fucking grunt in construction for, maybe at some point in time, maybe my brain is worth something. I don't know, rather than my physical body, which I beat the shit out of for the last 30 plus years.
Well, maybe your entrepreneurial spirit could be taken advantage of right now with what's happening with the tech censorship. Do you have a website?
Well, I was setting one up when me and my son were doing our podcast. I had actually started a website that I was going to use and make it into a podcast, but that hasn't worked out. And he's so busy now and his schedule's all over the place that we can't do it on a regular basis anymore. So that was the that it set up, and it was under Liberty Hunter Podcast. I probably could go back and rename it. Maybe I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. I don't have an actual website.
We should actually think about the majority that are on there. I'm sure we can come up with maybe 10 people that could figure out one person that we trust that has the best internet connection that we could actually have a server of our own that we could live stream from.
Good thinking, Derek. Actually, yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, we do got to get on board with trying to figure it a way that we don't have to deal with some of these things that are causing harm to us as far as getting our voices out there. Because at the end of the day, I've listened to you, I've listened to AJ, and the reason why I consider you guys friends and why I have no problem streaming with you guys, because I know you all have good intentions and come at things from a good place. So why would anyone want to restrict us other than the fact they obviously have authoritarian tendencies? But yeah, we got to figure out a way to create some, while you guys have been good too, because I've seen you've been doing the same thing, is I keep trying to tell more and more people nowadays, get the fuck on board with these alternative platforms. Because who knows what's going to happen, right? I would like to hope that YouTube will at least give us the opportunity to do what we got to say, even if they don't want to monetize us, as long as we have the ability to upload our stuff. But we definitely have to have a presence and get more people. Two things I think is important: get people more adoptive to going to alternative platforms, and the other thing is a little bit of pay to play. So
you have to, right? Like that's the way the world works. And I mean, Dan Dix may be the best person to think of to have that server. I know he's really into the crypto thing, and this is his life doing, like he was making quite a bit of the monetization of YouTube. So maybe that's something we should all look at as creators, is trying to support Dan and maybe convincing him, because that's right up his alley as well. He would probably love to have a server to be able to do live streams. And even if he's got his own website, maybe he's into doing his own thing. But if we could come up with that and each one of us could add content once a week, or even have a once a week show, we'd have enough to go around. But whatever we do upload to that site is really a backup. We want to bring the traffic through that site, but really it's the backup. We still share our content on our normal platforms to get over people to the site.
Yeah.
Right. You have like you do a lot of content on YouTube, but then you have exclusive content that you can do on that site, right? That streams or whatnot.
A good example would be what Rebel Media does. Kian Beckstedt only tweets out the Rebel link. So you have to go to the Rebel website, but you're watching it through a YouTube player. So It's smart. He's still using these social media platforms to get the traffic to the website, and people don't have to do it there, right? They can just go right to YouTube, but it's better to go through their site to be able to support them.
Yeah, but this is an area, like I say, where it's really important for those of us, if we want to maintain our presence on the internet and not be beholden to align with, advertisers' prerequisites or requirements as far as conformity to what they want to stand for, allow, is we have to get more and more people adopted to what you and I know we all grew up on it. I said this in past videos too, is, man, if you want to go the video, if you want to play a video game, you have to stick your quarter in. If you want to have a magazine or a subscription to your favorite I don't know, superheroes cartoon or a comic book, you had to pay. And that's the weird part about this new culture as far as social media, is the younger people today don't understand that you have to pay in some way. And what it is you're not paying out of your pocket, but you are paying through your data. So these platforms are taking all your data and using that and selling it to advertisers. But in reality, you could circumvent all that just by direct payment. Like,
it's funny that you say that. Like satellite radio was trying to do that, and that same principle that you're talking about could really be applied to most of everything we talk about today. Is that self-responsibility? That able to choose. Everybody always has a way to show you how they can do it easier for you, but that's their business, right? That's kind of like what we're doing here. If you come to us, we'll make it easier for you to understand the news. But it's a service that people do appreciate. And it's the same with YouTube and all those others. Yeah, you could do it here for free, but you got to see these advertisements. So you're beholden to their rules then at that point, because you want to use a service that's free.
Yeah,
and you don't need to use advertisements. Like, I've had mine turned off for almost 2 years or whatever. Like, one aspect that people can go through, as well as stuff like Subscriber Star or whatever and stuff like that too. Like, I don't have an account. I wouldn't go with Patreon because, that company, you don't want to keep giving to them, because they prove themselves to remove people like Faith Goldie, etc., that don't have the right political viewpoints. But I think Subscriber Star, I haven't signed up to that one, is pretty good. So, you can support stuff like that. And, if people like your content, like stuff, they can donate $1 or something, right? I'm not saying do that for me or whatever, because my content's whatever, not as high grade as some other people, but some people, they take 10 hours to edit a really good video and stuff. And you like it, you watch it, you enjoy it. If you want them to continue to make content, then it also takes your participation sometimes. And, right now people have it good because of the ads, but that's going to go away eventually. It's not something that's going to stay around forever. Eventually these advertisers are not going to be on YouTube and stuff, and you're not going to have any of your shit monetized whatsoever anyways. So, it's good. Like Stefan Molyneux or whatever, like he built a base without the ads and all that stuff, and he's just like, donate to Freedom AM Radio, and people are like, but he's shilling and he's asking for money and begging and stuff. But at the end of the day, you got to ask for what you want and for what you need, and money makes the world go round. And you can't dedicate 15 hours of your day making content that people like to watch and not get paid for it, and also provide for your family, your wife, and your kids. So, you know what I mean? If so, people, they really like Steven Crowder or whatever, and like his content, and now he's not getting ads. Well, give $1. This is not going to break your fucking bank. If you watch him every fucking day, like, are you really not going to? You can't give him a fucking $1? Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, AJ, damn you! You're so fucking Canadian. Stop selling yourself short like that, man. Trust me, there's value in what you bring to the table. This is the problem, is we always think that the only fucking value, or a lot of us have been taught, like, the only value it has is if you can break your fucking bones in your body. But what you bring to the table with your mind has value too, man. And you trust me, you bring stuff to the table every day, and you should have some value placed on that too. That's the thing I think you got to give yourself a little more credibility or credit for, is all of us that are trying to offer things. And I'm not even saying that what I'm worthy. Like I say, I'll let the market, dictate. The problem is that the current paradigm that we're set up is there isn't actually any market involved, right? We really, the only market we're functioning in is we're selling all of everything that we provide to someone else to sell to advertisers, but there isn't a direct correlation or relationship where it's consumer to advertise or consumer to or content creator to consumer. Because to me, I'd like to eliminate the middleman, right? I'd like to, if people want to listen to what I got to say, because people obviously do, and people want to listen to you, and people want to listen to Derek, guaranteed, I guarantee, because I see they do it every fucking day. So you're giving them something of value because they wouldn't be consuming your content if they didn't deem it as valuable to them. The thing is that we just don't have the ability under social media platforms because they figured a new kind of model that was disruptive to the old technology. And I get why they did it. I understand the concept, but I'm sure even some of these big wigs execs in these social media platforms realize, damn, we probably didn't do it in a proper manner that's going to be conducive to keep this propagated and make it into more adventurous or entrepreneurial, because now, like I say, now we have to be beholden to advertisers and what they will allow. Whereas if they had to start these platforms out early on, adoptive with just a pay the play mentality, but it would have been cheap. But like I say, back then, I guess because you didn't have PayPal, you didn't have all these payment services, I guess it was much more difficult to do so. So it was a quick fix. But today we don't have to worry about that. We can have a pay to play where a person might say, and I've said this in past videos, to watch AJ's video, it might only cost me out of pocket, let's say $1 or 50 cents. Actually, I think it would be lower than that. I think what I figured out, you could even get it down to 10 cents per video. And we would still, as the content provider, without the middleman and all the people that get to take a chunk or a slice of that pie, we would actually be able to benefit quite substantially, just even if you just had a few thousand views on your videos, which most of us do. If people were paying, like I say, even a dime and just had the ability to pay directly to us, we would have the ability to say what we got to say and not have to worry about, oh, if I swear, someone might want to hear it because the advertisers get to affect that. And we'd be in a situation where you don't have to listen to what I got to say. You don't have to listen to what AJ got to say. You go do your own thing. But because we have to function in this current environment where now there's these third-party intermediaries, they get to affect and dictate what we're allowed or a compensation. It's not working out very beneficial for a large, substantial portion. It's not even just those of us that are talking about politics. My wife tells me all the time about people that are having their fucking channels screwed up because of the way that the current business model works, social media platforms. And it's like, and I think eventually we will get to that point. But yeah, maybe we can be some of those people that are thinking about this stuff much more in advance. And yeah, maybe we'll get to the point where we can figure it a way where people will just donate to us, whether you have to use. Now, to me, the problem I think with Subscribestar or Patreon, and I do have a Patreon, I don't have a Subscribestar, but I did make sure I set up my PayPal. But a lot of people are like, even myself, like, who wants to keep going through all these different fucking process? Most people like things done conveniently, right? So in YouTube, the easiest thing would be someone right now, which is why, like, I guess super chats are fairly easy, is they're watching the video now and they could just do it directly without having to go through a third party. But if we can do it even just by everyone that watches their view or watches our videos, that has the ability to just, okay, while I'm watching your video, I'm also donating, 10 cents or $1 to your, then, like I say, then we can get to the point where we don't have to worry about being beholden to people's, as far as their ideology or their stance on the issues. I don't know how we're going to get to that point, but all of us together, I'm sure if we put our minds together, we can figure it a way that we can make that happen.
IDW started out pretty good with that principle in mind. You could donate coins to different people and whatnot, kind of like mines, but it just never took off. I don't think Jordan Peterson was actually directly involved with this one, and I don't know why he's been so quiet recently with the amount of censorship that's been going on recently. But these platforms are fine; they worked fine. It wasn't until recently that the censorship has gotten out of control and tried to control the narrative to try and sway elections, basically.
Yeah, I'm just looking. Freddie said something about Freddy Krueger. Elm Street Man said something about donating something here. Let me just check it real quick. How about donating equipment to Canadian Libertarian? How to do that? Equipment? I'm not sure what you mean, Freddie.
Well, recording equipment, probably.
What's that? Sorry?
Probably recording equipment or something like that. Maybe.
I'm okay as far as that stuff. I'm all right.
I think you'd benefit from having a green screen and like a rebel background.
Yeah,
like how Nick Fuentes has his stuff, and like it goes with the presentation that you have right now already. You're always well dressed, and if you had that extra step in the background, who knows? You'd look like a real news guy, except you'd be dropping F-bombs and people, what the hell? Is this Fox? What is this?
I know, that's the thing. I'm just so not politically correct, and I don't think I could ever get to the point where I am. I try my best though, but I always resort
towards that though. People always gravitate towards the person who's real and authentic. We can tell, like, if you've ever seen Justin Trudeau's speeches, my God, you've listened to one, you've listened to them all. That same no, that's when he's talking off the cuff, but when he's giving an actual speech about something where he comes out with his cards prepared and a smug face, that's something that we should all do together. He always does the head turn and the tone change. Have you ever noticed that? That's always part of the speech. Head turn, tone change. And now that you watch it, you won't be able to not see it.
Oh, hey, thanks for the donation, AJ. By the way, buddy, AJ Illicit is a great guest. Derek is racist. Oh, by the way, AJ, just above that, B&M, that guy said, "Unban me. I'm your favorite Jew." I used to follow.
I told him I unbanned him weeks ago on my channel, and it's on Fred's channel. He's got to ask Frederick to unban him on his channel. So, that's what he's got to do.
Oh,
but
yeah, okay, there it is.
On mine. I haven't seen him on my stream, but you're not banned on my channel.
Oh, I see Rika, the hopeful volunteers. This is another lady that we've been friends for a long time. She's been following my stuff, and I've been following her stuff for quite a while too. I haven't talked to her. What? Yeah. Oh, yes, actually, good. Wife's greatest first thing about this stuff, because you know what? I get so focused on stuff, I do forget about this stuff. But actually, yeah, I need someone to help moderate the comments, because I remember the last time, and you guys are proactive and done this stuff already.
Moderate.
Well, okay, would you do that, AJ? Because
no, don't give it to me.
Okay,
no.
Whatever. Well, no, but Rika or just somebody, please, because God damn it, I don't want anyone in there in the chat.
Well, you know how to do that,
Bennett? Did it happen? Remember that somebody did some shit where they said something about, like, I don't know, like fucking pedophilia shit or some crap like that.
Okay,
like, don't.
What you got to do is pick somebody in the chat, click on their name.
Yeah,
and that will give you the option to make one of them. What is it called?
Yeah, moderator.
Moderator.
Yeah, I obviously want to ask first. I don't want to volunteer someone for me, but yeah,
well, you can make a few people moderators. Like I made Julie Mora a moderator for mine, just because I didn't, and AJ I think too, just because I was into a deep conversation. I think it was with Kevin J. Johnson. I just couldn't keep up with the chat, so I just threw it on AJ and he did it for me.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good idea. And even my son told me a while ago it's good, because even when his channel, like he had a couple of gaming channels, and one of his was at like 140-some thousand, almost 150,000 subs. And he's like, oh my goodness, you can't, unless you have at least 3 moderators, you just can't stay on top of things. Now, obviously, I'm nowhere near that. But yeah, you should always have someone that's at least paying attention to the chat, because as you guys know, I can get bad at that, because I get hyper focused on, if I'm having a conversation with you guys, I try to get hyper focused on that and paying attention to you. But yeah, if shit gets in my feed like that, yeah, I don't want to see stuff where someone's posting stupid pedophilia crap on there. So if anyone actually is in the chat, if you don't mind, just post right down here in the bottom, say if you'll agree to it, and I'll just like Derek said.
Rika said she'll do it.
Rika? Oh, awesome, Rika. She's awesome. Like I was saying, even Rika is really awesome. Like I say, I've known this.
She's okay.
What? Okay, right on.
She's okay.
It sucked. What I was trying to.
I'm kidding. I like Rika. I'm joking.
The other day, I was doing a chat and I was just trying to read stuff off myself, and I don't know if I was just too stoned or something, but I almost ended up reading the 14 words. Some guy just wrote it out, and I just.
Oh, there we go. Add moderator.
Thinking, saying it out loud.
There we go. Awesome. Well, thanks for you guys for even reminding me of this stuff, because once again, I did forget about the whole thing about trying to make moderators. Well, that's the thing about me. I don't try to even. That's what I do. I just like the freedom thing, and I know with freedom, some bad shit comes with it. Normally, I'd be like, I just go with the flow. But yeah, and when it comes to stuff like that, I do understand. Yeah, we don't want that kind of crap showing up in our channels. So. Yeah, good idea, you guys. Thanks for pointing that stuff out. And
yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that when I gave them out. I was just like, here you go. Here you go. It's like you give somebody a prize. Yeah. You've been a good boy.
Yeah. So actually, awesome. I got your back, Bennett. Right on, Rika. That's cool. Actually, Rika, if you want, we can have a chat. If you want to do a live stream anytime, sometime, just let me know. AJ elicits. When are you going back to Twitter?
I'm permanently banned.
God damn it. Who would permanently ban someone like AJ?
I would.
What kind of an asshole or bitch you got to be to permanently ban someone like AJ? What the hell is wrong with you people, anyways, over there at Twitter? Damn it.
Yeah, it's been like almost a year since I've been
Really?
banned. Like I can use the
What the hell did you do, AJ? Or do you want to say?
I said to bomb some. No, I didn't say anything like that. I was just arguing with the first time I got banned was I was arguing with a Muslim about something. And I guess maybe they deleted all of their tweets.
Buddy.
I didn't say any. I wasn't like you're a terrorist. I didn't say anything like that. It was just kind of like a discussion about, I don't know, Islam or something. And I guess it was considered hate speech, maybe. I don't know. I got perma-banned from that. But before that, I would constantly get put in timeouts for like 12 hours. Like I'd respond to somebody, and if you respond to them too much, they consider that like harassment or something. But I'm like, just to somebody that you don't know, if they're not following you and you're not following them or something. So I guess they're in their algorithm, maybe they consider that like harassment. And I'd say like fuck, right? Occasionally. And then I'd be put in timeout. So I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna say fuck anymore. I barely argued with people anymore. I stopped doing that. And then I got put in timeout, or I had my account removed, but I still had this random other account that was still up, that still somehow worked. And then that one also got put in permaban. I guess maybe when they were going through that other purge where they're like, oh, we're going to find all the people that have multiple accounts, right? And we're going to purge them because that's goes against our problem.
I can't even see anything on Twitter anymore. I'll literally go underneath and it says tweet unavailable, tweet unavailable, tweet unavailable, tweet unavailable, tweet unavailable. And then I'll see one who's got the same idea as I would. Tweet unavailable, tweet unavailable. So what's the point? What's the point if you can't have the free exchange of ideas?
Well, listen, I can't, and one thing I'm not, and I'll admit this, and probably people will take advantage of this, but yeah, I don't go into investigating people's history. I just deal with what I know of you, right? And what I know of you and Derek, you and AJ, is everything that I've seen so far. You're just reasonable people that have a stance, obviously, but I think you're both very reasonable gentlemen, which is why, like I say, I don't mind having these conversations with you guys. And the fact that anyone would ban you, like, unless, like, the only thing I could ever hope or think is there must have been something that's completely either non-reflective of the person that I'm actually talking to today, or they've actually caused you some harm needlessly, because I don't think anything that either of you gentlemen said, and I follow both of you. And Derek, I actually see quite a bit of your tweets. I'm not very good on the tweeting thing because, as you know, look at me, how much I fucking talk. What the fuck would Twitter be good for? Other than sharing links to shit, Twitter is about as useless as tits on a bowl for me. Right?
I'm almost ready to
do in a few hundred characters. I barely opened my mouth by the time they're shutting me down.
I'm almost ready to burn it all down. But I just started this petition that I want to make sure everybody signs. You know what? Maybe I should throw it up in the chat again.
Yeah, do it, man. Go for it.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to push it for a while and use these platforms. But one day I'm gonna do like the burn it down stream and just say everything horribly to get me kicked off and just let it go. Yeah.
But I think both you gentlemen, everything that I've seen, all the videos I've watched, and I watch quite a few, even those long ones. I want you guys to know. Now, I might not do it all in one sitting. Like if it's, and I'm sure you guys probably do the same thing. If it's a couple hours long, I might do it in a sitting, maybe go eat supper or something, and maybe sit down later and watch the rest or something. But I usually do pay attention because I find what you guys put out there is quite engaging. And I like to hear what you got to say because I think both of you come at it from a really good mindset. And like I say, I respect your position that you take. It's like, who are these people, once again, other than the fact that they're threatened by someone else's ideas? Because at the end of the day, all the rhetoric they espouse as far as racism or sex, most of the people that I see that are pointed to as far as these people that are on the left or the SJWs that they're directing their anger or resentment to, most of them don't actually represent anything that they're trying to suggest. I've never heard anything from you in any of your videos or AJ from any of his videos or anything he's ever said that to me is like, oh, fuck, you know. Now, I've heard you guys make some good jokes, but that's great. That's the whole point of comedy. Like, what the hell? Why would anyone even want to be overly concerned with the fact that someone says a joke that might be somewhat controversial? That's bullshit. Take that with a grain of salt, you dipshits. You know, thicken your skin up a little bit. Don't be such a bunch of idiots and whiners complaining about the fact that someone's saying something that you don't like. I like I say, I would be more than comfortable, even right now, even though I don't know you enough that I could say that like we've been buddies for years. But I think I at least know both of you gentlemen enough just by listening to stuff, at least what you've presented as far as online, that you're two decent guys that really care about things, and you just want to offer a different perspective than what some of these authoritarians in the media are offering. That's all. And it's like, why would you want to paint people? And you're not in a position of power or authority. Derek's not in a position of power or authority. Why would you want to try to paint your or paint these people in a bad light when all they're trying to do is challenge the status quo? I think the people that do that are doing a great disservice, not to themselves, but to society at large, because I think you guys bring a lot to the table that are, I mean, you know, look at the people that watch your stuff. They're good peeps, right? And you're helping to inspire them to get on board and accept more personal responsibility and caring about the things that really matters most to us. Why would anyone have hatred or vitriol towards someone that's trying to stir up things that make people think critically about the issues or how we're governed? That's weird. I mean, I don't have to agree with you on everything you say, nor would I expect anyone to agree on everything I say. But to paint people that are just stirring up conversation and trying to get into genuine dialogue or debate in the way we're governed, I don't, even people that are leftists, I don't hate them for that. I'm sure they have their own grievances, but let's work through it. Let's have some conversation. That's what we do every day. So why would anyone try to silence or suppress us?
Right. Well, like the thing where like we're getting censored or removed from Twitter and nobody really knows why. They're like, what did I say? What did I do? Right. It makes it's like we were talking about earlier, how they're trying to lump in Ben Shapiro and all these other basic conservatives with extremism and stuff like that, right? It's not necessarily what I was saying, or I mean that I was saying anything hurtful or racist, but you know, I think I was looking at some study a while ago where Twitter or one of the social media companies coming out and they were flagging terms like Christian and patriot. And so this is why conservatives were constantly getting picked up. You know, so if you say, I don't know, Christian, patriot, I don't know, right wing, or some of these words that conservatives use a lot, you're going to be probably put and censored. But I've seen so many people on Twitter that say the most racist shit, that say, you know, the N-word, and they're like white supremacist type people. I'm like, how are these people not kicked off fucking Twitter? Whereas I say fuck, and I'm like, what the hell? Or the reverse, where you see the people saying horrible shit about white people, and it's like, oh, white people should all die and we should kill them, or something like that, right? And you're like, how is this not removed? So
I'm trying to be more artful about my tweets now. Like, they were talking about kids. I forget how the tweet was going, but somebody was celebrating somebody transitioning as early as like 5 years old or something. And I said, oh, that's great. Congratulations. It's so wonderful. How long before we cut off his penis?
Right. Well, it doesn't even matter what you say on Twitter, because they'll get you for any fucking reason they want. So you can.
It kind of boils down exactly what they're trying to do. Well, how long before we cut it off? You're transitioning. Right.
Well, you know, when you talk about all this stuff, and especially for those of people that are on the sidelines or don't know exactly what in the hell is going on, maybe you're new to this whole discourse, but the old saying is, if you want to know who rules over you, look at who you're not allowed to insult, right? That's a pretty profound statement. Now, of course, doesn't mean it's the end all be all, but it is very much a recognition is if the patriarchy, the white male patriarchy truly existed, how is it that they're the only people that are allowed to be insulted today are white male? And it's done by not just those who represent the established media or the established parties, but anyone on the street. You can insult white, especially if you're a white heterosexual male, middle-aged in particular. Hey, if you're middle-aged like myself, top notch. Now you can go after people like me. No fucking problem. And everyone be like, yeah, fuck those guys, right? But yet you even dare say anything and not even insulting, but just to challenge some of the positions of like a feminist, let's say, right? How easily is it for you to say something that's negative towards a feminist today without being attacked? Not so easy, right?
I saw this thing on Reddit today where they took Salon, BuzzFeed, and HuffPo articles about white men, and they replaced it with Jew, right?
Yeah.
And holy fucking shit, does it sound a lot worse when you do that? Like their articles, they sound like Nazis. And you're like, how is this okay to say this about white people and all this other crap? But here, I'll share it in the. I don't know if I'm able to share it because
I see in the chat there, BM. What I learned today from Derek, you must be black if you like the Toronto Raptors. We'll report you to the Trudeau government. No, you don't have to be black to be the Toronto Raptors, but that's the only time diversity isn't a strength, and that's still their motto. If diversity was really a strength, don't you think they'd have more than just tall black guys on the Raptors?
Right, exactly, right. And it's like that. I want them to lose because it's just so annoying. The whole Toronto's we're such a much a better city than you because our fans are diverse and you're all racist.
The Raptors are not diverse. The Raptors themselves are not diverse. It's just
diverse just means no white people. That's all it really means. So when there's like a picture of all black people and they're like, look at how diverse this is. Like, oh, it just means no white people. That's
not just that, but you got to think about all these people, especially the leftists, right? The authoritarian leftist collectivists, how much they're completely against nationalism, right? Well, especially if you're white, right? How many of them though? Let's say what is it? Are they down are they down on the opposing team's home field? No, they're back in Canada, right? For game 4, right? Right?
They had game 4, I think, didn't they? It's 3-1 in the series. I think they're in Alabama.
Is it? Okay. But still, how many of these leftist collectivists that hate white people that are nationalists, how many of them were down there when they were singing the "Oh Canada," the national anthem for the Raptors? How many of them were down there like, oh yeah, baby, right? How many of them were like, oh, I'm so fucking proud of my team, right? Right? Were they not?
You know what was actually funny? When I was driving down to Toronto to go to that PPC thing, I was listening to the radio and they're interviewing people in the city about the Raptors. And the guy literally said, I'm listening, he says, oh, it's nice. You know, this city is so multicultural. You have all your little tribes. It's finally nice for something to have the city come together on.
Right.
Like
that's called unity.
What did you say for a second? Like,
right.
We're in our own little tribes. Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
A Freudian slip or whatever.
But, yeah, it was fucking hilarious to say, oh, so you're saying we don't all get along. We only do that for the Raptors.
Only when we're standing behind the nation or a team or a tribe, right? That sounds very much authoritarian collectivist, or it sounds very much like you're a nationalist yourself. So stop fucking painting other people that you perceive as on the other side of the political spectrum just because they're nationalists as well. Why would you suggest that they're bad people, but you do the exact same thing? But you're virtue signaling when you're doing it, right? They're bad people when they're doing it. That's the fucking problem. It's like, it just sounds so foolish to me. Now, personally, I'm not all necessarily about team sports or tribes. I do recognize that I have to be part of a group, a collective, or a tribe, and I respect them. But once again, my association with people is always built on a voluntary interaction or engagement and based on just individuals. Now that could be considered a tribe or a collective because you have multiple people, which comprises a group or a tribe or a collective. But to me, it has to come down to not just blind loyalty against people that hate me. It's a loyalty to ideas or what we stand for. Now in the sports world, I get it. This is competition as far as, you know, who's more competent. But once again, these leftists or these leftist collectivists, they're gonna, if the Raptors beat the opposing team, they're gonna say it's because they were a better team, right? Well, that means you're rewarding them based on meritocracy, are you not? You're not going to fucking reward them because they gamed the system or voted to win. You're going to reward them because they were better than the opposing team. Well, then, isn't that the same thing you would want to carry through into the economic realm or in your societal structure? You want to reward the people that are more competent, Right. So, but once again, this is the area where these people, they're like going this way and heading back the other way. And they're going two directions at the same time. And no wonder why they're confused and confounded, and why when the rhetoric that comes out of their mouth sounds like a constant contradiction in everything they stand for, is because they're not actually standing on anything. They just, whatever sounds appealing or appeals to people's emotions at the time.
Right. Yeah, they just contradict each other or themselves continuously, right? Without realizing it. And they're not informed with reality. But I don't know if you guys wanted to see that video. It's like a minute or so long. About
Go for it, AJ.
It's pretty. It's
not a copyright thing or anything, right?
No, it's just, I think
somebody. Well, no, not if it's a minute. It's probably good for a minute.
Like somebody shared it on Reddit or something, right? So
yeah, go for it, man.
If it's copyrighted. Okay. That just means if they want to monetize it, the money goes to somebody else. I've had 100 copyright strikes.
Yeah, well, it don't matter. It's all good.
Yeah, I had one the other day where they just said because I guess I was doing a stream and they're like, you use something, this can't be monetized. I'm like, oh well, I don't monetize my channel anyways, but oh well. All right, so here, I'll play it here. Let's see here.
BuzzFeed.
See, white men.
Goddamn white men.
Watch, you'll see. Could it be deny white men? But watch, you'll see when they switch it. Literally Hitler. Oy vey.
Oy vey. What?
like
the hell is this stuff? I thought we were talking about games and shit there. I didn't know.
I can't see it if you're talking about it.
Oh, sorry.
I paused it, but it's right now. It's just showing he's like his widespread and better systems of exploiting other humans and nature dominate. Like they're just showing how these articles written by Salon and HuffPo are looking when you replace it with like a Jew or something. Right? Sounds really bad, but it's okay to do with white.
Okay.
See, like the influence of reckless Jewish males, right? But see, all this is white. These are all real articles, but written with white. So a denial of the franchise to the whites could see a redistribution of global assets to their rightful owners. So they're actually just talking about white people. But if you switch it with anything else, without the Jews in the world's parliaments and voting booths, we will allow legislation to be passed which could see the world's wealth far more equitably shared. The violence of Jewish male wealth and income inequality will be a thing of the past. So these are all real articles, but just with white instead. Wow. So it's pretty messed up if you really think about all that stuff that they're putting out there. Crazy. No wonder they hate white people, because anybody who's like a regular Salon, HuffPo, Slate, and increasingly now like CNN and other more mainstream ones, they all push this fucking narrative, and it's crazy if you put it in this perspective. People always say that, hey, what if you said that and you switched the race and stuff, but when you put like this crazy music behind it and just like put Jew, especially Jew, because that word for some reason makes people like really antsy. It's like
that's definitely
weird.
One of those protected words,
Well, it's like it's okay for other people. It's like, I'm a Jew, but if you say like,
well, we need to come
Jews, you're like, oh, that's hateful.
We need to come up with our own way of calling it, like anti-Semitism. We need a long word for anti-whites, like anti-Caucasian, or just anti-cock. Are you anti-cock?
But that was the beautiful aspect of the importance of respect and acknowledging the individual over someone that's identified based on their group or their tribe or the collective, is you can say lots of things about individuals, right, that do things wrong. Like there are people from particular demographics or cultural backgrounds that may do things wrong. But once again, I just want to point out to that individual. I would never try to suggest whether you're Jewish, and I said this even before, I'm an Irish guy. And yeah, the Irish have a pretty good reputation as far as being a bunch of drunks, right? But doesn't mean that everyone that's Irish is drunk, which is why it's important to deal with people as individuals, because even though you can make particular stereotypes or generalized statements, that some of them seem like they're reasonable because they come along as a consequence for some dominant traits that does seem to be part and parcel of people from particular backgrounds. That's not a rejection of that reality. But once again, the fact that I want to deal with people as individuals means that I don't have to rely on preformed prejudice or stereotypes or generalized statements, and I'm going to deal with you as you. Now, when I'm walking into the equation, I might think, oh, if this person's from a particular, there might see some suspect ideas I might think that I got to concern myself with initially. But as long as you've dissuaded me from having to be concerned because you're doing things in a proper manner, I don't have to identify you based on some political identity or your culture or your background or your race. I want to deal with who you are as a person. And that's, like I say, 200 years ago, the people that figured out how to get us out from underneath of this collective mentality figured actually how we do it is acknowledging each other as individuals. But look at what we're living today. Now we're looking back into painting each other as part of our identity or our tribe. And it's like, I don't want to be identified as white. I don't even want to be identified as you probably realize, I don't want anyone to say I'm even conservative or liberal. I am fucking me. Now, the one thing I will identify with, which is why I call myself the Canadian Libertarian, is I identify as a Libertarian. And the only reason why that is because the three core fundamental principles of what Libertarian means is self-ownership. So that I'll agree with every day, all day, every day, is I own me. Nobody fucking owns me. I own me. I'm not a slave to no man. So that I agree with. Property rights. Anything that I produce from my mind or with my hands is mine. I made it. It's my shit. You don't own it. And the non-aggression principle. I don't want to use preemptive force or violence or coercion or theft towards anyone else. Now, I will defend myself if someone's bringing that shit to me, but I don't want to do it preemptively to anyone. So that is what identifies me as an individual. Or if you want to use it as a collective identity as far as libertarianism, fine. If you want to use that as just an overarching identity for someone, I'll accept that. But I'm not going to accept the fact that you're going to say that you're white, therefore you're what? Racist? Therefore you have special privilege? What the fuck? Not in the world I ever grew up in. I grew up in a really poor family. I didn't have any special privileges afforded me. I'm sure people that shared my skin color might have had that, but that's not me. That's why, like I say, I just like you, AJ, and you, Derek, I want to deal with you. I don't care if you, I don't even be like, oh, Derek's got a beard. Therefore, all bearded people must, right? No, I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. I want to deal with you as an individual. And if we can get to that point and stop playing this collective identity bullshit, then I think we'd all be much more readily available and accepting of the fact that even though I might not agree with you everything, I just want you to respect me and I'll respect you and you do your thing, because we're never going to get to the point in the political realm, that's for sure. We're never going to get to the point where all Canadians are going to be on board and accepting of one way of doing things. Some people are going to want to do things different than I want to do it, and some people are going to want to do things different than AJ is going to want to do it, and some people are going to want to do things different than AJ wants to do it. That's fine. Or I mean, Derek, sorry. But just don't try to force your shit on me. All I want is some rules of engagement when we're out in the social or the public realm where we deal with each other, even in economics, is where we respect each other's sovereignty. Other than that, I don't care about bringing any other collective identity to the table other than what you are as far as your principles that you hold dear. If you're a person that respects my sovereignty, I don't care if you want to call yourself a fucking unicorn. Go ahead and call yourself a unicorn. I'll even identify you as a unicorn if you ask me to, as long as you respect my sovereignty as well.
Right. Yeah. We need to treat people as individuals, right? And just like the thing in the video was saying Jew or whatever, like obviously not, we shouldn't do that, but it just shows you like how fucked it is, how mainstream that they're doing this right now, which just white people, and they feel, well, you're in the position of privilege and you're the majority and you can't be racist because power plus privilege. I can be prejudiced towards you, but I can't be racist and whatever. And there's some dumb nonsense to justify their blatant open racism, dehumanization that is going on.
Well, in an effort to try and stop that, did you notice? I'm not sure if either you got to see the article about removing Hitler videos and Hitler.
Yeah, I saw that.
From the
That's
internet.
fucking bullshit. We want to know who these authoritarian pieces of shit were. Don't fucking remove that. Don't scrub history. That's how we
Or
learn.
educational videos too.
The funny part about it was an educational video from someone on the left.
Right. And all these professors are like, hey, what the fuck? You know?
Yeah, they were the ones advocating for this censorship, but yet when it bites them, they didn't see this fucking coming. Like,
Yeah, I don't like that idea at all. Of as far as this whole scrubbing of history. Now, no, that's bullshit. That just basically guarantees and reassures that we're going to go through this same fucking process again and again and again. That was the whole point of even after the Gutenberg press come to exist in the Enlightenment areas. We have to make sure that people understand this so we don't keep repeating the same mistakes over and over. But the people that are trying to rewrite history are saying, "Oh, we want to keep this process continuing going on." That's fucking bullshit. No, we want to learn from past mistakes. But you know what? In the hope for volunteers.
Well, I mean,
Rika says this is interfering with her potato salad making, and I got to tell Rika, you just got me right here. You got me right here. I fucking love tater salad, Rika. My wife just laughed. Actually, I could hear her in the background. It's like, yeah, now you're really, man, I love me some tater salad. I guess that's that Irish part of me coming in. It's like I'm getting hungry now. But anyways, go ahead, guys. Sorry.
I don't know where we left off there. I think.
Sorry, tater salad.
I don't like potato salad. I never have.
Fuck you, AJ.
Just saying. It's my opinion.
I think we've been going for quite a while there, guys. I'm going to jump off and get me something to eat, fill my belly.
Right on. No, I obviously I'm just playing around with you guys, but no, I do love potato salad. But yeah, no, it's okay, Jay. I'll accept that you don't like potato salad.
No, that's the only thing that will get the Canadian Libertarian to aggress upon other people.
Don't
when you say you don't like his potato salad. That's the only thing that'll get him to break the non-aggression principle and aggress upon you.
It's good shit, guys. No, really though, I enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for everyone in the chat for showing up today. I really appreciate it, and I had fun. I really did. And this is actually, I got to do more and more of these ones where we're actually engaging in stuff in a more lighthearted manner and just do my videos. I think this is a better way when I'm doing the live stream to just keep things lighter and get into the more serious stuff when I'm doing my regular uploads, because I actually love having these kinds of conversations with you guys and the people in the chat. I'm pretty sure they enjoy them as well. So thanks to everyone, like both you, AJ and Derek, for showing up today and joining in, and all the people in the chat. And Rika, thank you for agreeing to be a moderator and help me out in that way. And we'll talk again soon, guys. And whenever you want to, if you're out there live streaming and I see you're on there, I'll join in if you ever want. And like I say, I think we're helping a lot as far as Canadians. We're showing them that we can do and we can talk about these kind of things in a manner that we don't have to hate on each other. And we'll find areas of agreement or even areas of disagreement. And it's okay. It's okay to disagree as long as we respect each other on our sovereignty. And at the end of the day, as long as you're not trying to force your shit on me and I'm not trying to force my shit on you, I think as we lead by example, more and more Canadians will get more adoptive and accepting the fact that this is really what's going to be the only thing that's going to help us going forward is in not looking at each other based on our collective identity, but on who we are as individuals and respecting our sovereignty. And if we can get to that point, I think the sky's the limit for Canada. And we're already 3/4 of the way there because we've had a lot of, not just geniuses in the past, but a lot of real strong, resilient, and ambitious and courageous men and women that have fought and died to get us to this point. And I think AJ and Derek and people like myself, all we're doing is we're going to carry that torch, and actually we're going to turn it up a little bit and get a little brighter and make liberty shine as bright as humanly possible, and make sure the people that did fight for all the freedoms in the past, considering this is the 75th anniversary of D-Day, all those people that gave up their lives to fight against authoritarian collectivism, at the very least, what we can do, considering we live in a world where we don't have to go through those kind of devastating wars, currently at least, at the very least we can do is give people the important structures and understanding of what it is that they fought and died for. It wasn't just for a story. It wasn't for a headline. It was for an important fundamental aspect of what it is to be a human being, and that's to be free from force, subjugation, and coercion and theft. And that, at the end of the day, I think most people, whether you come from the left or the right or anywhere in between, you know damn well that's what is required to have a healthy and a free society.
Yeah, but who the hell is the secret donor to Maxime Bernier?
That
That's
1.3 mil dude, right?
No, I'm kidding. Okay. But like that, I just got to mention that was fucking entertaining yesterday. But the exchange between you and Blue Apple and stuff, and like it's sometimes on YouTube. Yeah, it's good to have like sometimes people go off the rails a little bit. Like I got into it yesterday and stuff with somebody as well on like the social contract theory or something, right? But that was definitely really fucking entertaining, and I
Is that still up?
Oh yeah, I haven't taken it down. Like she wants me to edit her out of it, and I probably will because she requested it. So I probably will at some point in time, either later today or tomorrow. Take her out of it.
The 4-hour one?
It was like 4 hours and 29 minutes.
Well,
right.
I'm gonna have to check it out. But give me the gist of what happened, AJ.
Well, I don't think it was that bad. Like I'm not picking sides in the sense that like I'm not saying what she was saying.
Tell me
But yeah, I think
I get a little bit animated, I guess you could say, for a little bit.
Yeah, it got a little animated, but I can understand why. When people start to, or what if you perceive that person to be, insulting your character and stuff like that, right? And that's a big deal in my opinion as well too, right? If you're saying somebody, or if I don't know if she was, or maybe she got her point across incorrectly or something, but it's like, oh, if you perceive somebody to be calling you like a sellout or a shill or whatever, or forsaking your principles because of whatever reason, yeah, that to me is also a big deal and warrants kind of like a back and forth. But that's good. I think it's good to have these sometimes blow up arguments like that occasionally.
Okay,
it's not a bad thing.
You guys have been very, very kind gentlemen, and I've had my own dealings with Blue Apple in the past, and she is the exact reason why you shouldn't drink and mix medications. That chick is a fucking nut, all right? She's gone after Julie Mora, Kelly Day, Polly. Like, she makes all these videos about people trying to stir up shit. Just ignore her. That poor lady has got multiple personalities, or it's a bipolar disorder. I feel bad for the woman. She like
I love the flat earth comment what you made there. I was like, well, you believe in the flat earth or something like that was.
Yeah, no, that was, listen, I did get a little bit too opportunistic at that point, and but I'm not even really happy about how the whole thing unfolded, because I like, trust me, and just like Derek's even alluding to, she has some issues, but hell, who the fuck among us don't, right? I mean,
I got issues.
It is her thing, and I like I
Lots
said, but she's also been someone that's been there for me and support me for a long time.
Yeah.
So even though, like I say, in that area that we did have a disagreement, that's not the end of the world, though. That to me, at least at the end of it, I did try to reach out to her, and at the end of it, I did say, like, I respect you and as long as we can, it's okay. There's not even anything wrong for us to have an even like vocalized disagreements, even if it seems like it's not, ooh, that's something that should be private. No, it's okay to even publicly air that stuff, as long as you're coming at it from the proper point. And I think the thing that, and she understood this subsequent to our conversation, is just don't come at me with attack me. If you're concerned with something that I've said, raise the issue. I have no problem. But she should have, at the very least, have known, like, not to attack my character or who I am, because she at least would know that based on my history is I have good intentions. I'm not saying I'm right in every area in every regard, but she at least would know. And I think she recognized that too, is of course I come at things with at least the proper intentions, or at least what I hope to be proper intentions. And let's just work through our issues, but don't get into the personal attacks unless you absolutely have something to back them up. And, at that time, I don't think she had enough to back up the claims. I think it was very much more speculative in nature, which is why I think it got a little bit more heated than it probably had to get to. But I think it's all well. Like I say, me and her were fine.
Yeah.
I will end up editing her part out because she requested it. And if someone does that, then I'm respectful enough that I will do that for her. So
Well, I don't think she.
if you want to watch the video, do it between now and probably tomorrow because that section will be gone.
I gotta check it out for sure. But you guys are being too nice. She's a nut.
Right. She's always been nice to me or whatever, right? Like I understand, like she has said stuff about Kelly and all the other stuff, and that's not good. I haven't really, I don't remember honestly all the controversy or the drama that was between that shit. I didn't pay too much attention to it, but yeah, right. I'm not trying to shit on anybody, but I thought that it was a funny exchange, and nonetheless, and I would recommend people go watch it. Not funny,
not the whole thing, not the whole 4 hours and 20 minutes.
Watch the whole thing as well. Watch that too. There's all good content.
What time frame?
It's like I'd say 1:30.
Yeah. Someone actually posted.
1:30.
Actually, Derek, look at the comments, and someone actually posted right in there like the time frame when it was like getting all whatever. It's about 1:30 at Cherry's.
She's a nut. I just find it hilarious because she's got after every YouTuber I've ever talked to.
Have a good time, Derek.
She's attacked every YouTuber I've ever talked to. I swear.
Right on. Well, listen, you guys finish up. Like both of you, just take your time if you want, and just finish up saying whatever you got to say, and then I'll tie her up.
I would like to try and push my petition one last time. Whether you believe in petitions or not, I got to try and get the signatures, and I'm going to try and get Max to even talk about it at some point. He tried to start a petition on the PPC website, but that's not actually going to get anything done in the House of Commons. So I made a petition. I've left it in the comment section a few times. I'll do it again. And it basically talks about how Justin Trudeau, by having Facebook stifle us, and 64% of Canadians use social media as their primary source of communication these days. So Section 2, paragraph B actually states that they're not supposed to touch or have anything to do with media or communication. So anyway, trying it. I'll leave it in the link again. Thanks, Bennett, for having me on. AJ is a racist.
Thank you, man. I think you're a racist too, so it's mutual. Except I have like evidence about it, all the racist DMs that you've sent me or the IDW messages and shit about the minorities in your area. I got things on you, so
there are no minorities in my area.
Label other people.
There are no minorities in my area.
Not anymore. In your fucking cellar or something, but
right on. Well, just to tie things up, everyone, and like I say, I appreciate everyone that showed up in the chat. I really appreciate you folks showing up and getting engaged in this kind of conversation and dialogue. But I will say first and foremost is not only to follow people like AJ and Derek on alternative platforms, but make sure you've gone and are proactive to not just hit subscribe, but hit that bell so that you're getting notification every time they're uploading a video. Because as we know, like some of these algorithms and how things have been manipulated lately, you might be missing out on some of their content. So go in there. It'll only take you a second or two. Just go into their channel. And like I say, when you see that bell icon, you'll see the bell. And then if you double click on it, you get an extra little brackets on either side of the bell. And then you'll know that at least you're going to get notified every time they upload a video or do a live stream. And that way, no matter what happens as far as the algorithm, you do have that direct ability to consume and help. Because like I say, that's all we have to rest and reside on is your ability to listen to what we get to say or watch our videos and help spread the message. Because that's our thing, not just to watch our stuff, but take that time out of your day. And I'm going to try to be more respectful, use less slang, because it's not for myself, my own consumption. If it was only appealing to myself, I just do my thing. But I know I have to appeal to a whole lot more people. So I'm going to try to watch my language as best I can and at least make video content that's conducive so that you can share it with people that really need it. Because we're all, and I love having people like AJ and Derek to talk to, but we really need to reach out to the people that aren't on board or up to date as far as understand these things like we are. So some of those leftists or people that maybe just don't even pay attention to politics. Maybe you don't want to get into dialogue or debate with them yourself, but maybe you could say, listen, I heard this thing from this guy AJ or this guy Derek, and I just wanted you to listen to it, and then you tell me what do you think about what they had to say. You know what? That's actually a great thing that helps offload a little bit of your own confrontation with someone in your family, because you probably don't want to deal with it yourself a whole lot. And I get that. That's understandable. But then just if you don't want to do that yourself, because maybe you don't feel that you have the ability to do it or articulate yourself properly, then share AJ or mine or Derek or anyone else's content and say, just watch this video and you tell me, maybe we can sit down and have some dialogue and discussion afterwards about what's been said. And you know what? Then they'll feel like they're an actual participant in the conversation and they feel that they're actively engaged. And once again, we will benefit, but that person that's on the other side of that, that's questioning or concerned, will also feel much better available or adaptive to listen to someone else, because they won't feel like you're just sitting there in their front of their face, finger wagging at them. They're going to be able to sit and watch that video in the comfort of their own home and their own convenience and not feel like someone else is scrutinizing them. They'll just be able to, and I think actually even for myself, that works best for me. And I think that works best for a lot of people. So share people's content. Don't just use it for yourself and think that just because you're educating and informing yourself with other people's information, help the rest of Canadians get on board and up to speed by sharing our videos and our content. Because at the end of the day, we have to get at least a substantial portion of the Canadian population to start to think about these things critically. And then we don't have to play the politics game. The culture of Canada will have the dominant influence, and politics will be downstream, and we won't have to be overly concerned with who the particular actor or political party or political leader is, because we'll already be adaptive and on board with respecting each other's sovereignty and individuality. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to rule the roost. It's not politics. It's not checking a box every few years. It's leading by example in our own personal lives. All right. Thanks, you guys, like I say, for having this conversation with me. I'm going to tie this up. Everyone have a great day, and we'll see you next weekend.
Easy, guys.